Chapter 3767. Ling Xiao didn't want to speak because he wasn't sitting on the ground to adjust his breath like Zi Qinya and Yu Hua. He was still walking. Therefore, once he spoke, he would consume more energy. He just smiled at Zi Qinya. Then he lifted his foot and continued to walk forward. Yu Hua's eyes were full of disdain. It was already commendable that Ling Xiao could make it to the third place. His performance was better than almost all the people who were stronger than him. It was impossible for him to make it to the top. However, the next moment he looked terrified. Ling Xiao made it to the third place and still didn't stop. He was still walking forward. He passed Zi Qinya. He was still walking. Zi Qinya was only about 10 meters away from him. It was easy for him to cross the 10 meters. At that moment, Yu Hua's heart was in turmoil. He was not willing to fail like this. After all, the reward for the second place was a spiritual grade, heavenly king weapon, and the martial skill was not as powerful as the first place. He could imagine how powerful the martial skill that even Blood Sword Honorable couldn't master was. Blood Sword Honorable seemed to think that the martial skill was more powerful than his 9 heavens of slaughter. One could imagine how powerful the martial skill was. For Yu Hua, getting the second place was not as good as getting the first place. He struggled to stand up and tried to stop Ling Xiao. However, Zi Qinya also stood up at this moment. He stared at him coldly. Both of them were being attacked by the will of slaughter and the murderous intent. If they fought, the worst result would be that both of them would die. Yu Hua gritted his teeth and didn't make a move. He watched as Ling Xiao passed by him and continued to walk forward. He could only watch, because this was already his limit. He couldn't go any further. After crawling forward for about 3 meters, he felt the demon in his heart. He was so scared that he hurriedly sat down to adjust his breath. Fine, I'll take the second place. The 9 heavens of slaughter is not bad. Even if Ling Xiao gets the first place, it will still be mine after we go out. What's more, so what if he surpasses me? It's just a dead end. From Yu Hua's point of view, he could feel the immense pressure here and could not hold on any longer. Then Ling Xiao would definitely feel even worse. Therefore, he didn't need to worry at all. Of course, Ling Xiao wouldn't care about what Yu Hua thought. He was very grateful to Zi Qinya for stopping Yu Hua for him. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Yu Hua! Oh, Yu Hua! You probably still think that you can get second place. I'm really sorry, but the first, second, and third places are all mine. Ling Xiao sneered, collected his thoughts, and continued forward. His slaughter will and murderous aura became more and more terrifying. With every step he took, it seemed like he had to endure the corrosion of his inner demons. However, Ling Xiao felt more relaxed than before. Perhaps it was because of the high pressure that his soul had become stronger again. Finally, he reached the front of the throne. The distance between them was only 2 to 3 meters. Finally, he fell to the ground and hurriedly urged his soul power to protect his heart. A hurricane was set off in his soul realm. It was terrifying to the extreme. If he couldn't control it, his soul would be torn apart. Ling Xiao, my man! Suddenly, a voice rang out, causing Ling Xiao's heart to tremble violently. The hurricane became even crazier and had an urge that couldn't be suppressed. The Moon Lady's voice actually rang out. This was definitely his weak spot. He turned around and looked. The Moon Lady was standing there. Just a moment ago, she was smiling like a flower. However, in the next moment, she was bleeding from all 7 orifices. I love you, protect you, and even die for you. But what about you? You hooked up with another woman. I can't forgive you. Go and die. Her face became ferocious and terrifying. This made Ling Xiao very angry. Terrifying murderous aura crazily grew from the depths of his heart. It actually started to devour the Blood Sword Supreme's murderous aura. Perhaps even the Blood Sword Supreme didn't expect Ling Xiao's murderous aura to be so much stronger than his. How dare you ruin Sister Moon Lady's image? I don't care who you are. I will destroy you. His eyes suddenly opened, and all the illusions disappeared in an instant. His anger burned away all the murderous aura around him. He stared coldly at the skeleton on the throne. He only had one thought, which was to completely destroy the skeleton. Of course, he wasn't in a hurry to do that. He wanted to wait until this round ended. This was because he was worried that once he destroyed the skeleton, the murderous intent and murderous aura here would disappear. At that time, it would be troublesome if Yuhua caught up. Anyway, he had already taken first, second, and third place. All he needed to do now was wait. The biggest mistake that the Blood Sword Supreme did was to use the Moon Lady to bewitch him. This caused Ling Zhao's fury to reach its peak. It even surpassed the Blood Sword Supreme's murderous intent. About half an hour later, the Blood Sword Supreme's image appeared on the crystal ball. Game over. As this voice rang out, the red mist and red light in the air disappeared. The pressure was still the same as before. However, their vision was no longer affected. Their divine sense was no longer affected. They could see the end point in the distance. There was a person sitting there. A person who made everyone's jaws drop. Ling Xiao. Other than Yu Hua and Zi Qinya, the rest of the people exclaimed. Too shocking. Too shocking. The person standing in the first place was actually Ling Xiao. He was the person ranked third from the bottom in terms of strength. Other than Gao Hong and Zilong, he was definitely the weakest. However, the weakest person had taken the best position. Yu Zhen and Zilong were the most shocked. They had thought that it was an illusion when Ling Xiao passed by them. However, after their vision recovered, they could confirm that it wasn't an illusion. Instead, it was the truth. Where are Yu Hao and Yu Chang? Yu Jin looked back in fear. He saw two corpses lying in the distance. One was Yu Hao's, and the other was Yu Chang's. At this moment, they were so cold that they didn't have any aura. As for Yu Qilong, he seemed to have fainted because of something. At this moment, the people of the Yu family were extremely afraid of that terrifying young man. Those were Yu Hao and Yu Chang, and they were killed just like that? This was unbelievable. Yu Zhen, don't lose your composure. The pressure is still there. Yu Hua noticed that Yu Zhen's emotions were fluctuating because of what happened to Yu Hao and Yu Chang, so he hurriedly shouted out. No matter what, he was the strongest warrior. Even though he was talking, it didn't affect his emotions. I never thought that with Yu Hao and Yu Chang's strength, they would be killed by a second-level divine core warrior. If this is a nightmare, please wake me up. If it isn't, Ling Xiao, just you wait. I, Yu Zhen, will never forgive you. How dare you kill people from my Yu family? I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Yu Zhen calmed down a little. He also knew that in this environment, it was useless to be angry or infuriated. He would have to wait until he left this place. Chapter 3768. What is he doing? Suddenly, Yu Hua noticed Ling Xiao's actions. Ling Xiao actually stood up, took out the first Blood Sun world, and walked towards the skeleton on the throne. Zi Qinya was stunned when he saw this. She didn't understand why Ling Xiao took out his weapon. The game is over. You have already obtained the first place. Don't mess around. Zi Qinya reminded him. No, it's not over yet. Ling Xiao sneered and looked at the ranking on the crystal ball. He was indeed in the first place. However, the second and third places weren't Zilong and Gao Hong, but Yu Hua and Zi Qinya. This wasn't right. Obviously, Zilong and Gao Hong hadn't come out of the Mountain River realm. Therefore, they weren't included in the rankings. He wanted to let Zilong and Gao Hong out, but he had to ensure that the pressure here wasn't too terrifying. Otherwise, the two of them would be engulfed by the killing intent and killing intent. The best way to do this was to destroy the skeleton. Not only would this resolve the hatred in his heart, but it would also fulfill his wish. Why wouldn't he do it? Perhaps even the Blood Sword Venerate hadn't expected that someone would be so audacious, who would dare to disrespect his skeleton. Crazy, simply crazy. Everyone thought that Ling Xiao had gone crazy. Only Ling Xiao knew what he was doing. He walked up and removed the Blood Supreme armor and Blood Supreme sword from the skeleton. He also took the Blood Sword Venerate armor and placed it in his storage ring. This step was actually very difficult to do. After all, there was an array formation protecting the skeleton. However, would the array formation be of any use to Ling Xiao? Although the Blood Sword Venerate's array formation wasn't bad, it was far inferior to his. He was even worse than his master, Yuan Venerate. Ling Xiao had already started to break the array formation while he was waiting there. The reason why he was able to obtain those items so easily was naturally because he had broken the formation. Old thing, you're still torturing people even after death. Then I'll let you die more thoroughly. The sword slashed down. The skeleton of the Blood Sword Supreme was instantly crushed. Even if the Blood Sword Supreme was very strong before he died, there was only a skeleton left. It was meaningless. Following the destruction of the skeleton, the murderous intent and murderous aura instantly disappeared. As Ling Xiao had expected, the skeleton was the source of everything. The destruction of the skeleton allowed everything to return to normal. Everyone who had been working very hard was now able to relax. In that instant, almost everyone rushed towards the throne at the same time. Yu Hua and Zi Qinya were the fastest. Yu Hua naturally wanted to kill Ling Xiao and seize the things in Ling Xiao's hands. Of course, Zi Qinya wanted to save him. However, at this moment, the puppet warrior that had disappeared for a long time appeared once again. He stood in front of Ling Xiao and directly sent Yu Hua flying. The puppet warrior was designed to be the game's administrator. He would only protect the fairness of the game. It wouldn't protect the remains of the Blood Sword Supreme. Therefore, when Yu Hua wanted to kill Ling Xiao, he showed up. Everyone, the second round of the game has ended. However, I haven't announced the result yet. No one is allowed to act recklessly. After the result is announced, you can do whatever you want. The puppet warrior looked at everyone coldly. Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye noticed that the previous attack had consumed 90% of the puppet warrior's energy. He couldn't stop Yu Hua anymore. However, Yu Hua didn't know that. With the Tai Chi eye, the benefits were really great. Now I'll announce the result, the puppet warrior continued in a cold voice. First place, Ling Xiao. Second place, Zilong. Third place, Gao Hong. Hearing the result, Yu Hua was about to go crazy. The Yu family was about to go crazy. As for the others, except for Zi Qinya, they were all dumbfounded. What the hell? No one knew where Zilong and Gao Hong had been hiding all this time. Now, they suddenly appeared and became the second and third place. Wasn't this too unfair? I don't accept this. I don't accept this. Yu Hua was the most agitated. He was supposed to be the second place. However, now he couldn't get anything. It was the funniest joke. So what? This is the result. Ling Xiao has the ability to hide those two people. You can do it too. However, you didn't do it. Either you're too stupid or you can't do it. The puppet warrior said coldly. Yu Hua was furious. However, when he thought of the puppet warrior's strength, he didn't dare to act rashly. If he attacked the puppet warrior, he would probably be attacked by the puppet warrior and Zi Qinya together. At that time, he would be the unlucky one. Sister Qinya, here's the Blood Lord armor. Ling Xiao gave the Blood Lord armor to Zi Qinya openly. As long as Zi Qinya put it on, her strength would be stronger than Yu Hua. In this way, he would be safe. Okay, the top 3 can receive their rewards. The puppet warrior turned a blind eye to this matter. Anyway, it was the reward for the first round. It didn't care who it gave it to. Let Brother Ling Xiao take our rewards first. Zilong glanced at Gao Hong and said. Gao Hong nodded. He didn't expect that he would be able to help when he was disabled. He was very happy. It was good that he could anger the Yu family. Can I? Ling Xiao looked at the puppet warrior and asked. Of course. You've taken the Blood Lord sword. Here are all the rewards. You can have them all. The puppet warrior took out a storage ring from his body and handed it to Ling Xiao. In addition to the Blood Lord sword, there was also the Blood Devil seal, the 9 heavens of slaughter, and the immemorial martial technique, as well as the spiritual stone rewards for the top 3. Ling Xiao took the storage ring and deliberately waved it in front of Yu Hua. Yu Hua was so angry that he was about to flip out. Don't provoke him. He's probably waiting to vent his anger now. Zi Qinya smiled. He has fire? I have fire. Ling Xiao said unhappily. Yu Hao and Yu Chang, those 2 bastards, wanted to kill me together. Luckily, I was lucky enough to kill them with my slaughter intent and killing intent. Otherwise, I would have become a corpse. The angrier that old man is, the happier I am. Yu Hua's current rage was enough to burn Ling Xiao to ashes, but he couldn't do anything. He worked hard for a long time and lost many elites of the Yu family. In the end, he got nothing. He could only watch Ling Xiao and Zi Qinya talk and laugh proudly. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, Yu Hua looked even older. His eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent, but there was also a lot of worry. The trip to the bone burial ground had come to an end, but Zi Qinya had obtained the Blood Lord armor and was far stronger than him. In other words, the Zi family would completely ride on the head of the Yu family. I hope that Zi Qinya is as kind and innocent as before. Otherwise, the Yu family will be in trouble. Chapter 3769. We must spread this news. Treasures arouse the envy of others. If the king of the Zi mansion knows about this, he will definitely want to take it for himself. Yu Hua began to devise a vicious plan. All right, your trip to the burial ground ends here. You may all leave. I used the last of my strength to create this portal. It can only be maintained for 10 minutes at most. If you don't leave by then, you will have to figure out your own way. Just as Yu Hua was thinking of a vicious plan, the puppet warrior opened the portal and said to everyone. At this moment, the Yu clan and the Zi clan were not in a good mood. 60 people came in, and now there were only a dozen left. More than 50 people died. It was a tragedy. The most depressing thing was that they did not get anything. All the treasures had actually been taken away by that brat Ling Xiao. This was simply too despicable. Although Zi Qinya got the Blood Supreme armor, Zi Lan understood. This was not a good thing for him. Instead, it was terrible. He was not as strong as Zi Qinya. He thought he could use this trip to the Blood Supreme sword inheritance to gain an advantage and catch up with Zi Qinya. However, not only did he not catch up, but he also fell behind. It would be strange if he was happy. However, at this moment, no one dared to attack Ling Xiao. Zi Qinya had the Blood Supreme armor. Even if everyone here worked together, they were no match for her. However, no one could predict what would happen after they left. Everyone was staring at Ling Xiao. As long as Ling Xiao went out, unless he was hiding in Zi Qinya's monarch palace, they would be able to get their hands on all the treasures in Ling Xiao's possession. Sister Qinya, this 9 heavens of slaughter, blood demon seal, and 6 million upper-grade spirit stones are all for you. Take this beast ring with you for now. Bring Gao Hong and Zi Long out. I still have something to do. Ling Xiao's cultivation was not enough. He could not practice the 9 heavens of slaughter, which was an advanced 7th level emperor level martial skill. He could not even practice the blood demon seal, which was an advanced 6th level emperor level martial skill. Therefore, he planned to give it to Zi Qinya. When his cultivation reached that level in the future, it wouldn't be too late to use it for cultivation. As for immemorial martial skills, he wanted to keep it for himself. Zi Qianya's power of understanding was definitely not as good as his. It was better to leave it in his hands. You still want to stay? Zi Qianya was stunned. The test had already ended. So why did Ling Xiao still want to stay? She couldn't understand. Ling Xiao thought for a moment, then pointed to the space behind the throne and said, If my guess is correct, then there's no one there. This place didn't belong to the Blood Sword Supreme. Instead, it was an underground palace that had sunk into the ground. It had a history of at least 10,000 years. He was even older than the Blood Sword Supreme. I want to see what's inside. You won't be able to withstand it. The killing intent and killing intent, they're even more terrifying. The reason why he had such an idea was because the Sun Divine Beast Spirit had been reminding him. Tell him there's good stuff there. He thought that the Sun God Beast soul was reacting to the Blood Sword Supreme skeleton. But now he understood. It wasn't the skeleton at all. It was something deeper in the palace. Hearing Ling Xiao's words, the bones that had been smashed into pieces by him actually came together again. The bones let out creaking sounds. Finally, he let out a maniacal laugh. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. After thousands of years, someone actually discovered the secret of the underground palace. You have no way of leaving. You have to finish the last game with me. Everyone was a little dumbfounded when they heard this maniacal laughter. Ling Xiao was also stunned. At this moment, a celestial figure appeared out of nowhere. It was a middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe and a crown. What he means is that you have to enter the mini-universe world that I created as a soul. You have to complete the game that I set up, because you triggered the game. You won't die here, but if you can't complete the game, your soul will be sealed inside forever. That was the case for Shuiyang. His fleshly body had already decayed into bones, but his soul and inner core still existed. They are in my mini-universe world. The middle-aged man in the dragon robe said majestically, I was once the emperor of the Dongsheng strong country. In my mini-universe world, there is wealth beyond your imagination. Whoever passes the final game will be able to obtain everything that I will bestow upon them, including the Dongsheng strong country's heirloom seal. Everyone was shocked to hear this. The heirloom seal. It was rumored that the Dongsheng strong country's heirloom seal was an extremely powerful treasure. It could attack enemies directly. It could also summon the most mysterious heroic spirit army of the Dongsheng strong country. It was also the symbol of the Dongsheng strong country's rightful heir. Without it, he would not be able to justify his actions. How do I start the game? Ling Xiao asked. It's easy to start the game, but you have to think carefully. Once the game starts, it can't end. You have to compete with the Blood Sword Supreme. He has been trapped here for thousands of years, and he wants to find a scapegoat. Because there's another way to leave the game, which is to find another person with worse results than him. The Dongsheng ancient emperor said calmly, This game is called 9 Deaths and 1 Life. In other words, if the game continues, there's only one way to survive. Everything else is a dead end. Even if your soul or physical body will die, I have to remind you that once you die, everything you've received will be sent out. It will become someone else's reward. That's because the 2nd and 3rd place were only rewarded because of your strength. Therefore, they won't be qualified to receive these rewards. The one who will receive them will be Yu Hua. From the looks of it, the Dongsheng ancient emperor had been monitoring the entire process. That was why he knew Yu Hua's name and ranking. Hearing this, Yu Hua was so excited that he almost jumped up. He had given up all hope and thought that he had no chance with those rewards. However, Ling Xiao, that idiot, had triggered an extra game. Now, it was great. Although Ling Xiao was powerful, he was not on the same level as the Blood Sword Supreme. How could he win against Shuiyang? So, wasn't it obvious that the reward was going to be his? Ha ha ha, great. That's great. This is called the evils we bring upon ourselves. Yu Qilong, who had woken up, was even more excited than Yu Hua. Ling Xiao, you have to think twice. There's no need to take the risk. Even the Blood Sword Supreme Shuiyang couldn't complete the game, so it's even more impossible for you. Anyway, you've already received so many rewards. There's no need for you to do such a meaningless thing. Hearing this, Zi Qinya's expression changed greatly. Everything was going well. However, after the game started, it was not so certain that he would win. Chapter 3770. Zi Qinya wanted Ling Xiao to give up this game. However, what the ancient Dongxing Emperor said next made her feel helpless. It's useless. Once the game is triggered, you must complete it. Otherwise, I'll kill the person who triggered it. I'm much more powerful than the Blood Sword Supreme. I've reached a level that you can't even imagine. Therefore, it's best that you don't resist. However, I'm not the Blood Sword Supreme. I'm not that bloodthirsty. If you give up all the rewards, you can still leave. The ancient Dong Xing Emperor suddenly said. Hearing this, the members of the Yu family all laughed. They laughed very happily. If Ling Xiao didn't give up, he would definitely be killed by the Blood Sword Supreme. By then, the rewards would Yu Yuhua's. If he gave up, the rewards would still Yu Yuhua's. This was simply a gift from the heavens. Zi Qinya didn't look too good. However, after thinking for a while, she looked at Ling Xiao and said, Your life is more important. Even if you give your rewards to the Yu family, we still have the second and third place rewards. With the Blood Supreme armor, we won't lose too much. In her eyes, Ling Xiao's life was much better than those rewards. Ling Xiao grabbed Zi Qinya's hand and said with a smile, Sister Qinya, have some confidence in me. Think about it, the Blood Sword Supreme has been in this game for thousands of years. He hasn't passed it yet. This means that he's not suitable for this game, or he's too stupid. Although I'm not as powerful as him, I'm still confident in this game. Regardless of whether it was the first stage of the Evil Spirit Labyrinth or the second stage of the Slaughter Corridor, I obtained first place with the weakest strength. Isn't that right? Hearing this, Zi Qinya seemed to understand what Ling Xiao meant. However, she still couldn't help but say, The Blood Sword Supreme is vicious and murderous. He won't let you go. Even if he can't beat you in the game, he can still kill you. With his strength, no one can save you. If that's the case, the ancient Dong Xing Emperor wouldn't let me play the game, because I'll definitely die. From what he said, he wants someone to pass his test. He will definitely ensure that I don't die. At the very least, he won't let Blood Sword Supreme kill me before I complete the game. As for what happens after the game, I have my ways to escape. Ling Xiao smiled and said, Don't worry, I'll definitely win. Not only would the previous reward not be given to the Yu clan, but they would also be able to obtain even better things. I won't die either. Ha 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 ha, you must be dreaming. Do you think you can escape from me? The skeleton let out a wild laugh, obviously looking down on Ling Xiao. Shut up. Ling Xiao directly walked over and smashed the skeleton into pieces with a punch. This time, he directly activated the deviant flame and burned the skeleton to ashes. He didn't believe that the skeleton could reform itself. Brat, how dare you destroy my bones? I will not forgive you. Blood Sword Supreme's voice gradually faded away and disappeared completely. On the other hand, the ancient Dong Xing Emperor's eyes flashed with a strange light, and there seemed to be a smile on his face. How many years had it been since he had seen such a daring young man? Interesting. On the other hand, although Ling Xiao's words made sense, Zi Qinya was still very worried. However, there was no point in worrying. The ancient Dong Xing Emperor had said that only those who triggered the game could enter. No one else could enter. She couldn't help even if she wanted to. Ling Xiao also knew that no matter how confident and safe he sounded, the game would still be dangerous. The danger of this game would not change at all. Therefore, he didn't bother to explain. He just looked at Zi Qinya and said, Since you can't choose, just trust me. All right, Zi Long, and I will wait for you here. Zi Qinya's eyes were a little red, which was caused by sadness. She gently hugged Ling Xiao and nodded. If you don't come out, I won't leave. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, or even 1,000 years, I will wait. This was a woman's promise. Ling Xiao felt that this promise was too heavy. He smiled bitterly and said, Actually, you don't have to do this. If I don't come out in 1 month, my body will start to rot. Although a martial artist's body is very strong, with my current cultivation, it will probably rot in 1 month. At that time, you and Zi Long can leave. No, I won't leave. Without me, the small purple spirit kingdom can still operate. The Purple Mansion Kingdom will send a new king. You are my good brother and also my savior. Unless you come out alive, the two of us will never leave. That's right, we will never leave. Zi Long also roared in the beast ring. All right, Ling Xiao didn't intend to persuade them anymore. He was really lucky to be able to make two such friends. Such touching words. I am so touched, Yu Hua joked. But unfortunately, the Blood Sword Supreme is not me. That kid can defeat me. He is indeed powerful. However, the Blood Sword Supreme is hundreds of times stronger than me. I want to see how he can come out alive. Shut up. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you right now. Zi Qinya looked at Yu Hua coldly. Now that she was wearing the Blood Supreme armor, she was much stronger than Yu Hua. Yu Hua opened his mouth, but in the end he obediently shut it and didn't say anything. He was really afraid that Zi Qinya would kill him in anger. If that happened, the reward would be gone. All right, it's time to go. Also, I advise those who are not participating in the game to leave through the teleportation gate. The teleportation gate will only last for 10 minutes. If you miss it, you will have to wait for the kid or the Blood Sword Supreme to pass before you can leave. The ancient emperor of Dong, Sheng, suddenly said, Your Majesty, what if the kid dies? Yu Hua asked, Don't worry. If he dies, I will help you send the reward out and give it to the person who deserves it. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng said lightly, Let's go. Yu Hua was relieved to hear this. He called out to the Yu family and turned to walk towards the teleportation gate. The teleportation gate only had 2 to 3 minutes left. Let's go too. Zi Lan also called out to the rest of the Zi family and walked towards the teleportation gate. Sister Qinya, wait for me outside. Ling Xiao looked at Zi Qinya and said, But what about you? Without the teleportation gate, what can you do even if you pass? Zi Qinya asked, You don't have to worry about that. If he passes, I will send him out. If you don't go out now, you won't have another chance. The ancient emperor of Dongxing said, All right, let's go out. Ling Xiao, remember, we will wait for you outside. If you don't come out, Zilong and I will die of old age in the Xiling nether realm. With that, she turned and left. Seeing Zi Qinya leave, Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 37-71. After Zi Qinya left, Ling Xiao stepped past the throne and walked into a dark tunnel. In the next moment, a blood-red portal appeared in front of him. He walked straight into it. The scene suddenly changed. The dark and bloody ancient tomb actually turned into a place like a paradise. But what made him unhappy was that a mighty warrior with a murderous aura was waiting for him there. Your blood sword, Reverend Shuiyang? Ling Xiao asked the man who wore a blood-red armor and held the blood sovereign sword in his hand. Of course, no matter if it was the blood-red armor or the blood sovereign sword, they were all formed by souls. Right now, 2 souls had entered this mini-universe world. Their corporeal bodies were outside. The ancient Emperor Dongsheng would keep them safe for a month. After a month, he would leave them alone, facing a perfect heavenly core warrior who was at the 8th level of the divine core realm. Ling Xiao had no way of fighting back. If Blood Sword Reverend wanted to kill him, it would be an easy task. After all, the gap between their strengths was too big. But Blood Sword Reverend didn't attack. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he couldn't. Listen, before the game ends, you two are not allowed to kill each other, unless you're ordered by me to fight. If you don't listen, your soul will be destroyed. The ancient Emperor Dong Sheng appeared once again, but it was still an illusion. No one knew where his real body was. Hearing what the ancient emperor said, Ling Xiao let out a sigh of relief. Because he was right. The reason why the ancient Emperor Dongsheng set up this game was to choose someone who could inherit his legacy. Therefore, before the test was over, he wouldn't allow anyone to be killed. Kid, you're lucky, but this is a game that even I can't solve. Can you really do it? Blood Sword Reverend really wanted to kill Ling Xiao because this kid had destroyed his skeleton. But he didn't dare to take the risk. Although his body was gone, his soul and inner core were still there. He didn't want to die yet. If his soul was destroyed, that would be really depressing. You can't solve the game, but that doesn't mean I can't. Does being strong mean I'm smart? Ling Shao looked at Blood Sword Reverend and said with disdain, since he knew that the other party couldn't make a move here, what was there to be afraid of? At the same time, several figures suddenly appeared outside the burial ground. The members of the Yu clan, Zi Qinya, and the others were teleported out at the same time. What surprised them was that the Xiling nether region was really bustling right now. He didn't know who spread the news about the burial ground. Even the Purple Mansion King had personally come. The other 4 generals of the Z Mansion army were with him, as well as the marshal. "Hello, everyone," said the king of the Z government, smiling. He then looked at Zi Qianyi and said, "Zi Qianyi, hand over the Zun blood armor. I can protect your Z family. Do you think it's possible?" Zi Qianyi sneered. "I advise you not to act recklessly. Now that the Blood Supreme armor is in my hands, you are no longer my match. If you insist on fighting for it, then don't blame me for being impolite." Then this king really wants to give it a try. The king of Z Mansion sneered. He activated his true essence and threw a punch at Zi Qinya. Zi Qinya also launched a palm attack. Rumble! A horrible sound of explosion exploded in the Xiling nether region. In an instant, the king of Z Mansion was directly blown away. Zi Qinya only took 2 or 3 steps back. The advantage was obvious. "I see." The king of Z Mansion wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said coldly, "Aren't you afraid that I will destroy the Z family?" "You can try. If you dare to destroy the Z family, I will slaughter your entire family." After going through so many things, Zi Qinya had become ruthless, and the other party was too much of a bully. She had to be ruthless. "Your Majesty, let's work together. She is alone, and she is definitely no match for us." Yu Hua took the opportunity to say, "The rewards in the burial ground have all been taken by the Z family." He did it on purpose. He wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. "Who said she is alone? Do you think I don't exist?" Yang Shi suddenly opened her mouth. She was very curious about why Ling Shao didn't come out with Zi Qinya, but it was obviously not the time to ask about this. Zi Qinya was Ling Zhao's sister. Of course, she would help him. "Who do you think you are?" One of the generals didn't take Yang Shi seriously at all. He stomped his foot and dashed towards Yang Shi. "You're courting death." Yang Shi only wanted to protect Zi Qinya. She didn't want to kill these generals. But this man was courting death and wanted to kill her? Bang! With just a single palm strike, the general was shattered into pieces. He was killed on the spot. This scene left everyone dumbfounded. Although Zi Qinya knew Yang Shi was strong, she never expected her to be so terrifying. That was a general, an early 6th divine core warrior, a mighty warrior at the same level as Zi Qinya and Yu Hua. But he was killed with just a single strike. "Let's go." The king of Z Mansion threw a glance at Yang Shi. Fear could be seen in his eyes, although he still couldn't recognize Yang Shi. With such terrifying strength, none of them were a match for her. Although the Blood Overlord armor was great, it wasn't worth it to lose one's life for it. After they left, Yu Hua didn't dare to stay any longer. He ordered his men to keep an eye on this place. Then he quickly left. If he stayed here, he was worried that he would be killed by Zi Qinya. Looking at those men running away in panic, Yang Shi asked, "Where's Ling Shao?" "He's still inside." The ancient Emperor Dong Xing gave him a test. He wants to compete with the Blood Sword Lord. Although Zi Qinya said it casually, it still gave Grandmaster Tai Yuan a scare. Senior wants to compete with the Blood Sword Lord. Oh my God, does he have the confidence to win? He said he does. Zi Qinya said, "That's good. I believe I didn't misjudge you. You're able to gain the favor of the Dongxing Ancient Emperor. To be able to win the Ancient Emperor's favor, this means that in the Ancient Emperor's eyes, he is not any weaker than the Blood Sword Lord." It seemed like Yang Shi trusted Ling Shao more than Zi Qinya. Of course, it might be because her feelings for Ling Shao weren't as deep as Zi Qinya's. within the ancient Emperor Dongsheng's mini-universe world. The competition between Ling Xiao and the Blood Sword Lord had begun. In front of them were two deep passageways. Terrifying killing intent could be felt coming from the tunnels. There was also the aura of demon beasts. These are two beast tunnels. As long as you can pass through them safely, you'll have passed the first test. The ancient Emperor Dongxing's shadow said with a smile, I've passed through a beast tunnel like this countless times. I'll pass it even if I try 10 more times. The Blood Sword Lord said with disdain, but that guy is dead for sure. The demon beasts in the beast tunnel aren't any weaker than me. There are demon beasts of the 7th and 6th heavenly core realm. Can you pass? After saying that, he chose one of the beast tunnels and prepared to enter. Because he had tried it many times, he had tried both beast tunnels, but the result was the same. Therefore, it didn't matter which one he chose. Ling Xiao stood at the entrance of the beast tunnel, lowering his head as he pondered. He felt that what the Blood Sword Lord said was strange. Chapter 3772. Ling Xiao felt that there was something wrong with Blood Sword Sovereign's words. According to Blood Sword Sovereign, the demon beasts in both immemorial paths of beasts were at the 6th and 7th rank divine core realm. There might even be 8th rank divine core demon beasts. This didn't seem right. There was no way he could be a match for demon beasts at this level. If the ancient Emperor Dongsheng wanted to take the test, he wouldn't set up such an impossible task. Therefore, there was something wrong with Blood Sword Sovereign's words. Could it be? Ling Xiao had an idea. He activated his Tai Chi eye and looked into the immemorial path of beasts. Complicated runes were blinking in his eyes. After a brief moment, he stopped. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. All right, both of you, hurry up and pass the immemorial path of beasts. You only have 5 minutes for this test. If you exceed the time limit, you'll fail. The ancient Emperor Dongsheng reminded. Blood Sword Sovereign, you've been here for thousands of years, but you still haven't understood the mysteries of the immemorial path of beasts. Sigh, you've only grown in age and cultivation, but your brain hasn't grown at all. No wonder you were trapped here in the past. Junior will take my leave first. Ling Xiao looked at Blood Sword Sovereign with a smile on his face. After that, he stepped into the immemorial path of beasts. Blood Sword Sovereign was so angry that his face turned pale. This little brat, who was a few thousand years younger than him, dared to call him stupid? Although his words were polite, his scolding was very direct. You're stupider than him. You can't deny that. The ancient Dongxing Emperor shook his head and disappeared. Blood Sword Sovereign was still confused. He didn't understand what Ling Xiao meant, and he also didn't understand what the ancient emperor meant. Right at this moment, he didn't have the time to think. He had no choice but to enter the other immemorial path of beasts. Just as I thought. After walking for a while in the immemorial path of beasts, Ling Xiao had confirmed his thoughts. These two immemorial paths of beasts were actually very safe, as you might not encounter any demon beasts. It was also very dangerous, as the demon beasts you might encounter might be at least at the 9th rank divine core realm. The reason was simple. Here, your fears would become reality. For example, if you were afraid that a 7th divine core monster would appear, then a 7th divine core monster would appear. If they were afraid that a 9th level divine core monster would appear, a 9th level divine core monster would appear. Of course, the strongest monster in the game wouldn't exceed the 9th level of the divine core realm. This should be the limit. In order to test his theory, Ling Xiao pictured a first divine core demon beast in his mind. Then he simulated the feeling of fear. Then the demonic beast really did appear. He killed the demonic beast with a single slash. He realized that the demonic beasts here didn't have any demonic beast cores. They were all formed from soul force. He didn't want to waste any more time. He put away his weapon and walked out in a dignified manner. Through the primordial beast path, he quickly saw the ancient Dongsheng Emperor's true body. At this moment, the ancient Dongxing Emperor was not far from destruction. The reason why he was still able to preserve his physical body was because of this. It was purely sustained by a large number of spirit stones. It was all for the sake of finding a fated person to inherit his legacy. He had set up such a test because he would rather go without than have something substandard. Little guy, you're very smart. A rare smile emerged on the ancient Dong Sheng Emperor's face. After all, it had been more than 10,000 years, and more than 100 people had come here. Most of them were killed by Blood Sword Reverend. There were also some who gave up. No one had ever solved his test. Now that he had met Ling Xiao, a little guy who had easily solved the first test, how could he not be happy? But even so, he still couldn't feel at ease. Because Ling Xiao wasn't the only one who had solved the first test. Others might have taken a longer time, but there were a few who had solved it. Too bad they didn't manage to pass the second test. Thank you, Senior Ancient Sovereign. Ling Xiao stood there, waiting for Blood Sword Reverend to arrive. The second test should be carried out together with Blood Sword Reverend as well. Right now, he could hear the sounds of killing coming from the other primordial beast path. Obviously, Blood Sword Reverend had gone too deep into the Tao of killing. That was why he only thought of exchanging violence with violence. Therefore, he had actually increased the difficulty of the primordial beast path for himself. At the last minute, Blood Sword Reverend finally escaped from the primordial beast path. When he saw Ling Xiao, he couldn't believe his eyes. Impossible. How could you have passed the primordial beast path before me? And why aren't you injured at all? Blood Sword Reverend asked angrily. Obviously, it's because you're an idiot. Ling Xiao mocked. To tell you the truth, as long as there's no fear in the primordial beast path, there won't be any monsters. If there's no fear in the primordial beast path, there won't be any monsters. Think about it. Is it because whatever you're afraid of will appear in the primordial beast path? Because he was sure that he could win, and even if he lost, he wouldn't be able to escape death. Therefore, it wasn't a big deal to say this out loud. He could even anger Blood Sword Reverend. What? Hearing Ling Xiao's words, Blood Sword Reverend was annoyed. He was starting to wonder if he was really stupid. It had been thousands of years, but he didn't notice the problem. He even needed Ling Xiao's reminder to find out. Don't be angry. It's not that hard to admit that you're stupid. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Blood Sword Reverend took in a deep breath, although he really wanted to kill Ling Xiao, who dared to disrespect him. However, he gave up when he saw the ancient Dong Sheng Emperor. Being annoyed wouldn't solve anything. Anyway, this kid won't be able to jump around for long. I don't believe that all the stages can be solved with petty tricks. Blood Sword Reverend gritted his teeth. He felt that he was getting worse and worse by getting angry at a kid who was thousands of years younger than him, lowering his status. All right, the two of you don't have to bicker anymore. First, let me say something. This small world was opened up with my soul realm as the foundation. Therefore, it's not stable. Perhaps this will be the last game. If the two of you fail, then stay here and accompany me to end this 10,000 years of waiting. If one of you wins, then that's for the best. This small world will collapse at that time. However, I'll be at ease if I die. The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor spoke again. It was obvious that he was the most anxious one. To him, this might be the last game. After this, his soul realm world would completely collapse and he would die. Last chance. Blood Sword Reverend was clearly anxious. He hadn't been able to solve this puzzle for thousands of years. Could he really solve it in a short time? Perhaps the Blood Sword Reverend didn't know that he was just a little pressure that the ancient Dong Sheng Emperor wanted to give Ling Xiao. The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor wasn't counting on him. The main test this time was Ling Xiao. I didn't sense it wrongly. His body contains the 12 divine beast guards, although he only obtained 2.5 of the 12 divine beast souls. He has inherited my legacy. Enough! The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor looked at Ling Xiao with joy in his heart. Chapter 3773. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng really hoped that Ling Xiao could pass the test. At the same time, Ling Xiao was also observing the ancient emperor of Dongsheng. Perhaps it was because of his martial soul. Ling Xiao wasn't afraid of these mighty warriors. He could sense that the ancient emperor of Dongsheng's aura was somewhat similar to Yu Fenghua's aura. Once upon a time, I had a feeling that Yu Fenghua's strength was hidden a lot. Now, judging from the aura Yu Fenghua unleashed, I think she is at least at the 9th heavenly core realm. She is even stronger than this ancient emperor of Dongsheng. Indeed, the starting point was high, and it was terrifying. At the same time, he was reincarnated into the Black Tortoise continent. Although the Moon Lady was reincarnated, she would forget everything that had happened in the past, and would only be revived after 10 reincarnations. As for Jiang Qin, he was reincarnated. He retained his memories and cultivation techniques from his previous life, but he had lost his cultivation. Although they were both cultivating, the gap between them was still huge. The Eternal Palace is indeed terrifying. Ling Xiao finally understood how powerful the Eternal Palace was. All right, let's cut the crap. Before this soul realm world collapses, let's do this. Before this soul spirit collapses, we need to complete all the tests. The second test is a duel. Duel? Don't tell me I have to fight against the Blood Sword Lord? Ling Xiao said with a bitter smile. If that was the case, he might as well just give up. But he believed that such a thing wouldn't happen. That's right, you have to fight against him, the ancient emperor of Dongsheng said with a smile. Hearing this, Ling Xiao was startled. He had a feeling that the ancient emperor of Dongsheng's smile had a deeper meaning. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng didn't explain. He just unleashed the 2 puppets. In an instant, one of the puppets turned into Ling Xiao, while the other turned into Blood Sword Supreme. However, the puppet that transformed into Ling Xiao possessed the strength of a perfect 8th heavenly core warrior. The puppet that transformed into Blood Sword Lord's puppet had the strength of a perfect 2nd heavenly core warrior. The 2 puppets looked exactly the same as Jiang Qin and Yu Fenghua. The puppets were obviously made with special materials. They didn't look like puppets at all. They looked like real humans. However, he had no emotions and only knew how to fight. Explain. The second stage's battles are very simple. Ling Xiao fought the Blood Sword Supreme puppet, while the Blood Sword Supreme puppet fought the Ling Xiao puppet. What I need to tell you is not to treat your opponents as puppets. Because this was my world, the puppet of Supreme Blood Sword possessed all of Supreme Blood Sword's experiences, combat skills, and strategies when he was at the peak 2nd divine core realm. This included martial souls, divine abilities, and so on. Similarly, the puppet Ling Xiao possesses everything that Ling Xiao possesses when he's at the perfect 8th heavenly core realm. The ancient Dongxing Emperor seemed to be very proud of the setup of this stage. His pale face was brimming with a smile. The so-called 9 deaths, and 1 life is literally what it means. You only have one way to survive, and that is to complete this game. Then they would win. Otherwise, it will collapse along with this soul realm world. Is it over after defeating the opponent? Ling Xiao asked. Of course not. The end of this game was the failure of one of the 2 sides. If one of them lost the first battle, the game would be over immediately. But there is no winner. Because in order to win this game, you have to defeat at least 10 opponents, and you have to defeat all 10 of them at the same time. 1 against 10. The one who can defeat all 10 opponents first will be the final winner, and he will have everything that I have. Let me remind you, Ling Xiao, the best result of the Blood Sword Supreme was when he defeated 7 of his own puppets. Can you do better than him? The ancient Dongxing Emperor looked at Ling Xiao and said with a smile. Ling Xiao finally understood. For the past few thousand years, the Blood Sword Supreme had been the only one challenging the puppets. Because he had no opponent, he had to defeat his own puppets. That didn't feel good. Although it was a puppet, it still looked like him. It was really unlucky for him to kill himself. Of course I can do better than him, because my puppets aren't easy to defeat. That is, if they really have everything that I have. Ling Xiao actually didn't believe what the ancient Dongxing Emperor said. He might be able to imitate other things, but not the martial soul of Tyrant Sky. Perhaps even the ancient Dongxing Emperor himself didn't know what Ling Xiao's scariest trump card was. Cut the crap, you'll know once you try. This time, I will definitely pass this game. My opponent was too strong when I tried to kill my own puppet, but that guy's puppet won't be able to withstand a single blow. The Blood Sword Supreme sneered. All right, since we're going to start, let's start. The ancient Dongxing Emperor knew that time was of the essence. Without wasting any more time, he waved his hand and ordered both parties to start the battle. Ling Xiao's opponent was the Blood Sword Supreme's puppet. Right now, the Blood Sword Supreme's puppet had everything that the Blood Sword Supreme possessed when he was at the peak second Heavenly Core Realm. The weapon in its hand was no longer the Blood Sovereign Sword. It was the first Blood Sun, Skyward. This Blood Sword Supreme is indeed a genius. He's only at the second Heavenly Core Realm, but he's able to use a weapon that can only be used by third Heavenly Core warriors. Ling Xiao looked at the Blood Sword Supreme's puppet in front of him and became cautious. But being cautious was one thing. He didn't think the Blood Sword Supreme would be his match if they were at the same cultivation level. Therefore, he didn't even use his beast soul transformation. He only used his innate fiend god sword soul. The ancient Dongxing Emperor's game was indeed interesting. It was fair to both parties. Ling Xiao turned around and looked at the Blood Sword Supreme. The Blood Sword Supreme's opponent was Ling Xiao's puppet. The weapon in the puppet's hand was the Blood Sovereign Sword. It was exactly the same as the Blood Sword Supreme's weapon. So this is the default weapon? Ling Xiao smiled. He really wanted to know how strong the peak 8th Heavenly Core Ling Xiao that the ancient Dongxing Emperor imitated was. But right now it was better for him to finish his battle as soon as possible. In order to avoid affecting each other, both of you will have to fight separately. The ancient Dongxing Emperor smiled. He plucked 2 leaves from the tree and gently blew on them. The leaves had actually sucked both of them into the battlefield. Right at this moment, Ling Xiao finally understood what it meant by a world in a flower, a pagoda in a leaf. Although this was because they were in the ancient Dongxing Emperor's soul ocean, because the ancient Dongxing Emperor could do whatever he wanted. But it was still shocking enough. The ancient Dongxing Emperor looked at the scene in the 2 leaves, and he couldn't help but lock his gaze onto Ling Xiao. This kid, the secret in his body, even I can't see through it. It's as if there's an extremely terrifying existence in his body. Whenever my soul gets close to it, it will be sucked away and devoured. Could there be something more terrifying than the 12 divine beasts' thrones in this world? Looks like he has the potential to be the one to break through the 12 divine beasts' thrones. If that's the case, then I can rest assured and entrust everything to him. The ancient Dongxing Emperor looked at Ling Xiao with admiration. Chapter 3774. The Blood Supreme. Sword belongs to me, but it was stolen by Shuiyang. Too bad. He can't unleash the true power of the sword. That's why he can't get the true name of the sword, the Eastern Victory Sky Sword. No, perhaps even I can't unleash the true power of the sword. If this Ling Xiao can, he will be able to activate the immemorial martial skill. He will achieve something even more glorious than me. Let's hope he can succeed. If not, he still won't be qualified to possess the Eastern Victory Sky Sword. Although the ancient Dongxing Emperor admired Ling Xiao a lot. But in order for his inheritance to be inherited by someone who had the ability to do so, he still wouldn't be partial to anyone. He would rather that thing disappear with him. Let's play with you first. Let's see what you're capable of. Within the leaf's dimension, Ling Xiao looked at the puppet in front of him and smiled. If he attacked with all his strength, this puppet wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Even without transforming, he could easily defeat this puppet. Although the Blood Sword Supreme was a genius, he still couldn't be compared to Ling Xiao. But now, Ling Xiao needed to observe the combat style of this puppet. This way, when the number of opponents increased, it would be easier to deal with them. After taking out the first Blood Sun world, Ling Xiao lightly stomped his feet and dashed forward. The Blood Sword Supreme puppet was the first to attack. The Blood Sword Supreme was the founder of the Purple Palace Army. Ling Xiao was still very excited to be able to fight against such an opponent. "Ignorant kid, you're courting death." The Blood Sword Supreme puppet's tone and expression were exactly the same as the real Blood Sword Supreme. This soul realm was really mysterious. With the help of a puppet, it could simulate a real opponent. This was really interesting. Blood Devil Seal. The Blood Sword Supreme puppet unleashed the Blood Devil Seal. But Ling Xiao noticed that the high-grade 6th Order Emperor Blood Devil Seal had been weakened to a low-grade 3rd Order Emperor realm. Perhaps it was because it matched the strength of the peak 2nd Heavenly Core Blood Sword Supreme. Blood Shadow Kill. Ling Xiao also used a low-grade 3rd Order Emperor Realm martial skill. Because of this, both swords and martial skills were of the same grade. The result of the battle would depend on their true strength. Ding! The two swords clashed, producing a burst of energy fluctuation. Unexpectedly, they were evenly matched in the fight. This surprised Ling Xiao. Without using his beast soul transformation, he was only able to fight to a draw with a martial artist of the same realm. This wasn't common. Usually it was an instant kill. From this, it could be confirmed that the Blood Sword Honorable was truly talented. Interesting, let's go again. Phantom Kill. The Phantom Kill was stronger than the Blood Shadow Kill. He wanted to see what kind of moves the Blood Sword Supreme puppet could perform. Slaughter in the 9 heavens? Ling Xiao was looking forward to it. Blood Devil Seal. Contrary to his expectations, the Blood Sword Supreme puppet still used the Blood Devil Seal. However, there was only one Blood Devil Seal. This time, as the first generation's Bloody Sun world trembled, the Blood Devil Seal actually split into 3. The power of each strike was stronger than the previous one. From the looks of it, he hasn't fully unleashed his strength. Phantom Kill destroyed 3 Blood Devil Seals. Ling Xiao was thinking about what level of strength he should use to test his opponent. Unexpectedly, the Blood Sword Supreme took the initiative and attacked first. 9-layered Blood Devil Seal. The Blood Sword Supreme furiously roared out. The first generation's Bloody Sun world pointed a few times in the air. Then 9 terrifying blood-red sword seals were unleashed at the same time, one after another. Each strike was stronger than the previous one. A mid-3rd Order Emperor martial skill. This is obviously created by the Blood Sword Supreme himself. Ling Xiao had heard about the Blood Devil Seal from Ziqinya. In fact, this Blood Devil Seal could be unleashed with any weapon or bare hands. However, unleashing 3 Blood Devil Seals at the same time was the limit. The 9-layered Blood Devil Seal was clearly a special technique. Jiang Qin felt that the Blood Sword Supreme was really strong. Luckily, he was only a peak 2nd Heavenly Core Warrior. If not, Jiang Qin might not be his match. 3rd style of Blood Shadow Sword Skill, Multiple Blood Shadow Kill. This move was already at the level of a mid-3rd Order Emperor class martial skill. Ling Xiao was also increasing his attack according to his opponent's strength. He wanted to see what the limit of this Supreme Blood Sword Supreme puppet was. The multiple Blood Shadow Kill and the 9-layered Blood Devil Seal collided violently. It was a draw again. You're really strong. Then, let's see my strongest attack. 9 heavens of slaughter. Destroy! The Supreme Blood Sword Supreme puppet finally unleashed the 9 heavens of slaughter. However, due to the limitation of its cultivation base, the strength of this attack was at most a 3rd Order Emperor martial skill. Right at this moment, Ling Xiao had basically figured out his opponent's strength. With a faint smile on his face, he said, "It's time to end this. We've wasted enough time." Yin-Yang Cosmic Tiger Beast Soul Transformation. Last style of Blood Shadow Sword Skill, Blood Shadow Clone Slash. The 3rd style, Multiple Blood Shadow Kill, was just a shadow clone. Only one of the clones had real destructive power. As for the fourth style, Blood Shadow Clone Slash, there were 3 clones in total, and each of them had the same destructive power. Furthermore, its destructive power had reached the Third Order Emperor Martial skill. Together with the Beast Soul transformation, it was a powerful attack. This move easily shattered the puppet of the Blood Sword Supreme. The moment Ling Xiao killed the Supreme Blood Sword Supreme puppet, he appeared outside the leaf space. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng was surprised. This was because he had never seen anyone who could kill an opponent in such a fast speed. He had only been distracted to watch the other battle, and the battle here was already over. Well done. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng smiled and said, "Do you want to continue or wait for a while?" "Let's wait for a while. Is the Supreme Blood Sword Supreme not done yet?" Ling Xiao asked. "He's in a tough battle. I didn't expect you to have so many trump cards." The ancient emperor of Dongsheng smiled at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao turned his head to look at the battle. He then realized that his puppet had already entered the unbounded, heavenly rat beast soul transformation. He even used the Crimson Thunder God. However, he still couldn't defeat the Supreme Blood Sword Supreme. Just as he had expected, the simulated puppet would not inherit all of his abilities. For example, the Sky Tyrant Martial Soul and Tai Chi I had already surpassed the ancient emperor of Dongsheng's abilities. But even so, in Ling Xiao's opinion, the puppet that had entered the unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation should be able to easily crush its opponent. Sure enough, the Tai Chi I's influence is too great, but it shouldn't be this bad. What's wrong? Ling Xiao carefully observed the battle. He realized that the puppet Ling Xiao was still using the Blood Shadow Sword skill, but it was adjusted to a 7th Order Emperor Martial skill. Therefore, the martial skill wasn't a problem. Oh, right, the growth rate is different. Ling Xiao realized another problem with the simulated puppet Ling Xiao. This Ling Xiao puppet wasn't the same as the 8th Heavenly Core puppet, because he couldn't imitate the Sky Tyrant Martial Soul. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng's simulated growth rate was wrong. It was much lower. Chapter 3775. No wonder. This Ling Xiao puppet is at least 100 times weaker than me when I'm at the perfect 8th Divine Core Realm. No wonder we couldn't finish the battle after half a day. Ling Xiao smiled. It looked like even in his own world, the ancient Dongxing emperor couldn't do whatever he wanted because of his lack of strength. What are you smiling at? The ancient Dongxing emperor asked curiously. I'm smiling. This Ling Xiao puppet is too weak. I'm 100 times stronger than him when I'm at the same cultivation level. Ling Xiao said with an indifferent tone. Young man, you're pretty confident. Based on your logic, doesn't that mean you can defeat 100 peak second divine core supreme blood sword puppets? The ancient Dong Xing Emperor said, something like that. But 100 peak second divine core supreme blood sword puppets are still superior in terms of numbers. It's going to be tough. Ling Xiao said cautiously. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng thought that Ling Xiao would flatly deny it. He didn't expect Ling Xiao to just be modest. He was extremely shocked. For the past tens of thousands of years, even when he was still alive, he had never seen such a frightening genius. To be honest, he didn't really believe what Ling Xiao said. But since Ling Xiao was so confident he should be able to easily defeat 10 opponents, right? With this thought in mind, the ancient Dongxing Emperor became excited. If that was the case, it would be great. The inheritor he had been waiting for tens of thousands of years was finally going to appear. The two of them sat there and waited for more than an hour. Finally, the Blood Sword Lord's battle had ended. He had won. He had defeated Ling Xiao's puppet, but he was severely injured. From the looks of it, any one of them could easily kill him. Isn't my puppet very powerful? Ling Xiao asked with a smile on his face. Damn, brat, this is my first battle, and I got hit because I didn't understand the situation. I won't let it happen again. Of course. The blood sword lord wouldn't lower his head. All right, both of you have done well. Now, I'll restore both of you to your pre-battle condition. The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor said with a smile on his face. After that, he waved his hand. The wounds on Blood Sword Supreme's body were all gone. It wasn't that he was powerful. The key was that this was his soul realm world. Most of the things that he wanted to do could actually succeed. Now, the two of you have recovered. Next, how many opponents will you challenge? The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor asked with a smile. Let him speak first. Blood Sword Reverend glanced at Ling Xiao and said, Why don't you go first? You've already fought countless battles like this. You have experience and are a senior. Don't embarrass yourself too much. Ancient Emperor Dongsheng said to Lord Bloodsword. The Blood Sword Reverend felt helpless. The Dongsheng Ancient Emperor was clearly biased towards Ling Xiao, but there was nothing he could do. But if he was biased, then so be it. It wasn't a big deal. It was fine as long as he didn't take sides in battle. He thought about it carefully, then gritted his teeth and said, I'm not in a hurry. I'll take it slow. He had won the previous battle with great difficulty. The strength of Ling Xiao's puppet was not inferior to his at all. He had relied on his familiarity with the rules and more battle experience to barely win. Therefore, 2 opponents was already very difficult. To be honest, he really did not expect this battle to be so difficult. In the past, when he fought against himself, his best result was facing 4 of himself. When he fought against others, his best result was facing 7 opponents. He had not expected that this time he would not even have the confidence to fight 2 of them. You don't seem to have the courage that you once had. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor glanced at the Blood Sword Reverend, then looked at Ling Xiao and said, How many do you want to challenge? The Blood Sword Reverend looked at Ling Xiao. He was also curious about how Ling Xiao, who was participating in such a battle for the first time, would choose. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, 10. Although he could defeat dozens of them, he wouldn't waste his time doing something so useless. Since he could pass with 10, why should he waste his time? What? Hearing this, the Blood Sword Reverend and the Dongxing Ancient Emperor were stunned. Are you sure you want to challenge 10? You have to know that the difference between 10 and 1 is huge. I advise you to take it slow. Anyway, as long as you're injured, I can heal you. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor did not want Ling Xiao to die. That was why he said that. He felt that this young man was a little greedy. Ha ha ha. Your Majesty, since he wants to die, you can fulfill his wish. 10 of my puppets? What a joke. Who does he think he is? The Blood Sword Reverend was stunned for a moment before he laughed maniacally. This was because he felt that Ling Xiao had gone crazy. He believed that his puppets were extremely powerful. It was already difficult to deal with 1, let alone 2. Even if Ling Xiao was a genius like him, dealing with 4 was already the limit. Challenging 10 at once? If that was not crazy, then what was? You can't do it, so you think that others are crazy. How pitiful. Ling Xiao shook his head and looked at the Dongxing Ancient Emperor. Your Majesty, I'm sure I want to challenge 10. No, I'll give you time to think about it. Blood Sword Reverend, you can also have a good rest. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor was still unwilling to let Ling Xiao, the son of hope, die just like that. Therefore, he wanted Ling Xiao to calm down. I don't need to rest. Let's begin. The Blood Sword Reverend was not frightened by Ling Xiao's number of challenges. Everyone knew how to talk big. All right then, you can start first. The Dongsheng Ancient Emperor waved his hand and the Blood Sword Reverend was sent into the space of the leaf. He had to face 2 Ling Xiao puppets at the same time. Little guy, watch carefully. Don't underestimate your opponent. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor said to Ling Xiao earnestly. Ling Xiao knew that this old man was doing it for his own good. However, he was not interested in watching any longer. The difference in strength between the so-called numinous firmament puppet and him was simply too great. He persevered for a while. he discovered another secret. Not only did the Ling Xiao puppet not have the Sky Tyrant martial soul, but it also did not have the god position of the 12 divine beasts. In other words, the so-called unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation was just the unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation. It did not have the sun god beast soul or the sun god bloodline. This was beyond the Dongxing ancient emperor's control. Therefore, Ling Xiao's puppet did not know the bloodthirsty rat plague, ground golden light technique, or bloody rat devil art. It also had the powerful life reversal. It also did not have the god position beast soul special technique. It was a defective product. No wonder even the blood sword reverend could not win against it. Ling Xiao suddenly stood up. "What are you doing?" the Dongxing ancient emperor asked. "Your Majesty, I know you are worried about me, but don't worry. It's just the blood sword reverend's puppet. It won't take long to deal with it. I might even be able to deal with the 2 Ling Xiao puppets faster than the blood sword reverend." Ling Xiao said confidently. "Forget it. Since that's what you want, I won't stop you. Go. I hope you can come out alive." The Dongxing ancient emperor took a deep breath and waved his hand, sending Ling Xiao into the space of the leaf. Chapter 3776. Blood Sword Supreme. If the 2 of us were to fight, I would definitely lose. However, your puppet's cultivation is similar to mine. How could it be my match? Your soul has been trapped for thousands of years. It's time for you to reincarnate. Let me give you a hand. In the space of the leaf, Ling Xiao was still calm facing the 10 blood sword supreme puppets. However, the ancient Dongxing emperor was not as relaxed as him. He was obviously nervous. He was afraid that Su Mo would be finished. Forget it. Let's not watch. The ancient Dongxing emperor waved his hand and avoided the scene of Ling Xiao's battle. He was afraid that Ling Xiao would be killed by the blood sword supreme puppets. Ling Xiao did not know what was happening outside. What he needed to do now was to focus on the battle. In the blink of an eye, he had already transformed into the Hell 9-headed snake beast soul. The Hell 9-headed snake beast soul was very easy to transform into when fighting against many. The moment the transformation was complete, 9 ferocious snake heads popped out from his back. Each head released a terrifying poisonous fog. 9-headed snake poison region, Death Kingdom black poison. The black poisonous fog instantly filled the entire space. The 10 blood sword supreme puppets sensed the terror of the Death Kingdom black poison and took out their talismans to defend against it. Even so, they had to consume 30% of their strength to prevent the poison from entering their bodies. They were not as strong as Ling Xiao to begin with. Now that they were weakened by the Death Kingdom black poison, they were even weaker. Hurry up and kill him. This guy knows how to use poison. We can't handle it. One of the blood sword supreme puppets roared and released his martial soul. It was a blood-red sword. Indeed, the blood sword supreme had a sword martial soul. Suddenly, the 10 sword martial souls were released at the same time. The air was filled with a powerful killing intent. It gathered together and blocked the attack of the Death Kingdom black poison. This blood sword supreme has indeed killed a lot of people. His killing intent is so concentrated that it's almost materialized. Ling Xiao thought to himself as he looked at the 10 incoming opponents. It's not good to go out too early. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Who knows if the Dongxing ancient emperor has any evil intentions? Why don't we play with these guys? Thinking of this, Ling Xiao smiled. His figure flickered, and he easily dodged the blood devil seal attacks of the 10 people. Then he suddenly launched a sneak attack. With the arcanum bow in hand, he shot one of them from a distance. This time he used ordinary true essence arrows, but his strength was clearly stronger than those puppets. Therefore, he managed to kill the enemy with a single arrow. Continue. After killing one of the puppets, Ling Xiao was not in a hurry. He gestured to the other 9 people. Everyone, this guy is very cunning. We need to attack together. Blood Sword Supreme wasn't stupid. Blood Sword Supreme's puppet was naturally not stupid. The death of one person made them understand that attacking like a swarm of bees would not solve the problem. They had to cooperate. Agreed. The 9 of them were telepathic and knew what the other party was thinking. This made Ling Xiao frown involuntarily. No wonder the Dongsheng ancient emperor was worried. It turned out that the 10 puppets were telepathic. Whatever one of them was thinking, the others would know. In that case, their cooperation would be perfect. Compared to fighting alone, it was much more powerful. Kill! The 9 of them pounced on Ling Xiao again. Ling Xiao did not dare to be careless and responded cautiously. He realized that one of them was charging at him without caring about his life. It was as if he was a death warrior. This scene caused him to be shocked in his heart. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. Immobilization talisman. Another person used the immobilization talisman. Ling Xiao felt his body suddenly stop. Although it was only for a moment, the other party had seized the opportunity. The death warrior pounced on his body. Then he started to detonate his inner core without hesitation. What a crazy way of fighting! Dragon Trapping Talisman. At this moment, another person used the Dragon Trapping Talisman to trap the death warrior and Ling Xiao together. Not only would this protect them from being affected, but it would also increase the power of the inner core's explosion. Perfect. It's really perfect. It's a pity that these 9 people don't exist in reality. Otherwise, if they worked together, they would really be invincible. He could feel his opponent's inner core exploding. However, Ling Xiao secretly praised the other party. If it weren't for the fact that he had the ultimate dance stage martial artist's divine pill in his body, he might have really panicked at this moment. It's a pity that you guys are still one step behind. When the inner core exploded, the energy was instantly absorbed by Ling Xiao's divine core. It did not cause any harm to Ling Xiao. What? The remaining 8 Blood Sword Supreme puppets were all shocked by the scene. Even the explosion of the inner core could not kill Ling Xiao. This made them even more nervous. Release the puppet beasts. One of them gritted his teeth and said, as the founder of the Purple Palace Army, Supreme Blood Sword was an expert in creating puppets. Of course, he would have puppets with him. He didn't use them before because he didn't have enough time. But now, Ling Xiao was trapped in the Dragon Trapping Talisman. They finally had a chance. Each Supreme Blood Sword took out a puppet beast. It was the size of a palm and looked like a lion. However, it was a blood-red puppet. Bloodfang Beast, release. All 8 of them circulated their energy at the same time, causing the palm-sized puppet beast to instantly grow bigger. In an instant, it had grown to a height of 4 meters and a length of 6 meters. Roar! A terrifying roar could be heard in the air. It was as loud as thunder. Damn! All of them are early 3rd divine core puppet beasts. This Supreme Blood Sword really has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. When Ling Xiao saw these puppets, not only did he not feel scared, he became excited instead. If the battle was too boring, he wouldn't be interested at all. However, the difficulty of the battle had increased by a lot. 8 peak 2nd Heavenly Core Blood Sword Supreme puppets and 8 early 3rd Heavenly Core Blood Fang Beast puppets. Boom! Right at this moment, the Dragon Trapping Talisman shattered. Attack! The Supreme Blood Sword puppet gave the order. 8 ferocious Blood Fang Beast puppets leapt towards Ling Xiao. As for the 8 Supreme Blood Sword puppets, each of them held a talisman in their hand, and they were ready to attack at any moment. Body Securing Talisman. Another Body Securing Talisman. Although it was simple, it was very useful. But this time, Ling Xiao wasn't frozen in place. What a joke! If he was careless again, he might really lose his life. Body Securing Talisman. Seeing that the Body Securing Talisman failed to freeze Ling Xiao, another Supreme Blood Sword puppet quickly took over. They wouldn't give Ling Xiao any chance to escape. But Ling Xiao's speed had shocked them. The second body securing talisman still failed to freeze Ling Xiao. Just as the third supreme blood sword puppet was about to take over, Ling Xiao's attack had arrived. Phantom kill. With a single slash, Jiang Qin killed the third supreme blood sword puppet. 7 left. Although the master was dead, the puppet beast still existed. It was just that it couldn't be controlled. The Blood Fang beast puppet just followed the order and kept attacking Ling Xiao. Chapter 3777. The Blood Fang's puppet beast that had lost control could still attack Ling Xiao. But the attack had disrupted the Blood Sword Supreme's puppet's plan of attack. It had messed up their teamwork. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ling Xiao unleashed another attack. Blood Light Clone Slash. A single man turned into 3 blood-red lights. He killed 3 Supreme Blood Sword Supreme's puppets at the same time. Ling Xiao was such a man. In a battle, you should never give him any chance. Or else, once he sees the chance, you would be the one in trouble. For left. When there were only 4 puppets left, Ling Xiao didn't continue attacking. Instead, he dashed into the group of Blood Fang's puppets. Suddenly, a divine dragon that looked like an ice crystal appeared behind his back. Divine Ice Dragon, Ice Aeon. In an instant, all the Blood Fang's puppets were frozen. After that, 9 snake heads stretched out from the ground and crushed all the Blood Fang's puppets. For Ling Xiao, who had transformed into a beast soul, these Blood Fang's puppets were simply too weak. Only a late 3rd Divine Core Warrior could pose a threat to Jiang Qin. These early 3rd Divine Core Blood Fang's puppets, unless he was unprepared, there was no way they could hurt him. How can he be so terrifying? The Blood Sword Supreme's puppets had the same thought process. The Blood Sword Supreme claimed to be the number 1 genius of the Purple Kingdom, and even the number 1 genius of the Dongxing Kingdom. Therefore, when they saw how terrifying Ling Xiao was, they were stunned for a moment. They were even terrified. Do you have any other trump cards? Take them all out. Ling Xiao looked at the remaining 4 Blood Sword Supreme's puppets. If he wanted to, he could kill all 4 of them in an instant. But that wouldn't be fun. Also, it would end too quickly. But too bad they had run out of tricks. That's all? How boring. At my level, the Blood Sword Supreme is just SOSO. Ling Xiao sneered. Buddy, since you're courting death, we'll fulfill your wish. The remaining 4 Blood Sword Supreme's puppets looked at each other. They were ready to fight. 4 layers of bloodthirsty, demonic domain. Bloodthirsty Demonic Realm was one of the Blood Sword Supreme's signature moves. It was a pity that it wasn't among the rewards this time. It was not an offensive martial skill, but a supportive martial skill similar to a domain. A person's bloodthirsty devil domain was 1 level. For people meant that he was at the 4th level. Any enemy trapped in the bloodthirsty demonic domain would be tortured by the terrifying killing intent and murderous aura, just like the second test. In fact, the second test was based on the bloodthirsty demon domain. The reason why the Blood Sword Supreme puppet didn't use this move before was because it would consume too much energy. However, they no longer had the confidence to win. He could only go all out. Rumble. In that instant, Ling Xiao felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on him. It's equivalent to 4 times the pressure of the second stage. Not bad. If I hadn't gone through the second stage, it would have been a little troublesome. But now, what effect will 4 times the pressure have on me? Ling Xiao shook his head. Sure enough, the other party had already exhausted all of his abilities. In order to thank them, Ling Xiao decided to end the battle. After delaying for so long, he felt that it was about time. 9 Heavens of Massacre. The 4 of them used 9 Heavens of Massacre at the same time and pounced towards Ling Xiao. After the move was released, the 4 Blood Sword Supreme puppets released their inner pellets at the same time. They were ready to explode. TSK, TSK. Blood Sword Supreme is indeed the Blood Sword Supreme. Normal people wouldn't be able to deal with such a fighting style. Ling Xiao exclaimed. The founder of the Purple Mansion Army really lived up to his name and was admirable. Although he hated that guy, he was definitely a battle genius in terms of fighting. He was about to release his inner pellet to defend against the explosion of the 4 inner pellets. As for the 9 heavens of massacre, it couldn't hurt him at all. With his beast soul transformation, he was unharmed. However, at that moment, he suddenly felt his heart palpitating. It was a palpitating feeling that could seriously injure or even kill him. What is going on? Logically speaking, the 4 blood sword supreme puppets were no longer a threat to him. But why did he have such a feeling? He had always trusted his instincts. Therefore, he didn't dare to be careless. He decided to give up on using his inner pellet. Inner pellets were very precious to him. Most importantly, they could protect his inner pellet and allow it to grow safely. If something went wrong, he would lose more than he gained. However, if he didn't use his inner pellet, he would have to face the explosion of the 4 inner pellets. He gritted his teeth and decided to go all out. Even if he was injured, he would be fine as long as he didn't die. However, the 4 inner pellets didn't explode. Just as the 9 heavens of massacre was about to hit him, he noticed that the 4 blood sword supreme puppets were mumbling to themselves. Using my inner pellet as a sacrifice to summon the sky demon. He couldn't hear the other words clearly. However, he heard these words clearly. Just as he was confused, the 4 inner pellets disappeared. They disappeared into thin air. Then a huge demonic claw reached out from the ground and grabbed Ling Xiao. The huge sky demon's head reached out from the ground. It was ferocious and terrifying. The demonic claw was like a huge vice that grabbed onto Ling Xiao tightly. Ling Xiao couldn't escape. Luckily, I didn't use my inner pellet earlier. Otherwise, it would be terrible. Ling Xiao was glad that he made the right choice. If he had used his inner pellet earlier, the only possibility was that his inner pellet would have been sacrificed. The sky demon that was summoned would be even more terrifying. If that was the case, he would have helped the enemy. The Blood Sword Supreme is so powerful. He actually has such a move. It's probably a move to perish together with the enemy. Ling Xiao could feel the power of the demonic claw and couldn't help but sigh. Kid, you are indeed powerful. However, after using this move, you won't have any more chances. One of the Blood Sword Supreme puppets fell to the ground and couldn't move. His inner pellet had been devoured by the sky demon. He wasn't far from death. Actually, you should have used this move from the start. Otherwise, you might have been able to perish together with me. But now, it's not bad that you're able to hurt me. Ling Xiao wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth. The sky demon, summoned by the 4 inner pellets, was basically the combined strength of the 4 men. It was equivalent to a peak 3rd heavenly core warrior. It was indeed powerful. But for Ling Xiao, such strength wasn't something he couldn't defeat. Actually, he had 2 options right now. One was to fight the sky demon head-on. The other was to dodge it with the earth-crossing golden light skill. The sky demon wouldn't last long. It would only last for 2 to 3 minutes. If he could survive it, he would win. But obviously, Ling Xiao wouldn't use this method to win because it was too boring. Ling Xiao, who was in the demonic claw, instantly transformed into the peerless heavenly mouse. After that, he grabbed the sky demon's claw with both hands and forcefully pulled it apart. This scene almost scared the 4 Blood Sword Supreme puppets to death. Chapter 3778. Once the heavenly demon died, the 4 Blood Sword Supreme puppets lost their vitality. They lost their lives in despair. Ling Xiao looked on indifferently as they completely disappeared. Then he walked out of the leaf space. This battle made him understand a principle. No matter what, he should never underestimate his opponent. Although it was impossible for there to be 10 identical Blood Sword Supreme in this world. However, he couldn't be careless. His carelessness this time had caused him to be injured. Although it was only a light injury, he still felt that it wasn't worth it. Originally, he could have easily ended this battle. When he walked out of the leaf space, he realized that the ancient Dongxing Emperor was looking at him as though he had seen a ghost. "Is there something on my body?" Ling Xiao asked curiously. "Do you know what earth-shattering thing you have done?" The ancient Dongxing Emperor smiled bitterly. "It has been 10,000 years. I have seen countless geniuses, but none of them could pass this stage. However, not only did you pass it, but you also passed it so quickly. It seems that I have underestimated you. Perhaps your potential is much greater than mine. Come, let me heal you first." "No need. Thank you, Your Majesty." Ling Xiao had only suffered a light injury and had already recovered. There was no need for any treatment. The ancient Dongxing Emperor once again revealed an astonished expression. To be able to recover in such a short time meant that Ling Xiao's soul was extremely powerful. After all, it was Ling Xiao's soul that had entered this soul realm. "I have really found a treasure. A real treasure. The 10,000 years of waiting have not been in vain." The ancient Dongxing Emperor was elated. He had painstakingly chased after her for so many years, all for this day. Whether it was the wisdom and calmness of the first stage or the strength of the second stage, he was very satisfied. This had far exceeded his expectations of a genius. As for the secrets in Ling Xiao's body, he didn't care anymore. He was satisfied to have such an outstanding genius to inherit his legacy. "The blood sword supreme hasn't come out yet?" Ling Xiao asked. The ancient Dongxing Emperor nodded. He then waved his hand and showed the battle scene of the blood sword supreme to Ling Xiao. The blood sword reverend was currently in a tough battle. One Ling Xiao puppet had already caused him to be seriously injured. Two Ling Xiao puppets had almost forced him to use all his strength. However, he couldn't help but admire this old man. With the experience of the first battle, this old man actually seemed to be able to win. Even though they were in a passive position, one of Ling Xiao's puppets had already been destroyed. The remaining one was also in dire straits. Who would win this battle would depend on their willpower at the end. The blood sword venerable probably didn't expect that the scapegoat that he had been waiting for so long had already completed the Dongxing ancient emperor's test. However, for the sake of fairness, the ancient Dongxing Emperor had waited for him to come out. Ling Xiao sat to the side and watched the battle in boredom. He wanted to comprehend the Blood Devil Seal and the 9 heavens of slaughter from the Blood Sword Supreme's battle. This way, it would be easier for him to cultivate in the future. After 3 hours, Blood Sword Supreme finally crawled out of the leaf space. It really crawled out. He was on the verge of death. It was even worse than the previous time. The Blood Sword Supreme was like a half-dead dog that couldn't even stand up in front of Ling Xiao. However, the Blood Sword Supreme was in a daze and didn't notice that Ling Xiao and the ancient Dongxing Emperor were sitting there and looking at him. Save me." He knew that as long as he didn't die, the ancient Dongxing Emperor would heal him no matter how serious his injuries were. The ancient Dongxing Emperor waved his hand, and a white light covered the Blood Sword Supreme. At this moment, the Blood Sword Supreme heaved a sigh of relief. The reason why he was able to persevere was because he wanted to leave this damned place. No treasure could compare to freedom. With his current strength, even the emperor of the Dongxing Strong Country couldn't do anything to him. When the time came, he could do whatever he wanted in the Dongxing Strong Country. As for Ling Xiao, he didn't expect him to survive from the 10 Blood Sword Supreme's puppets. He knew how strong the Blood Sword Supreme's puppets were. Even with his strength, he could barely deal with 4 of them, and that was with the help of his supreme talisman that couldn't be imitated. He only had 3 of those talismans left. He estimated that he could take on 3 more. As for Ling Xiao, how could he take on 10 of them? As he felt the white light enter his body, his injuries healed quickly. Moments later, he was completely healed. He opened his eyes and looked at the ancient Dongxing Emperor, waiting for the ancient Dongxing Emperor to announce that no one could pass this game. Therefore, he could be an exception and be released from this place. However, a face with a smile that was not a smile appeared in his line of sight. The shock that this face gave him was no less than seeing the face of the emperor of the Dongsheng strong country who was chasing after him. You, how is this possible? The Blood Sword Supreme said in shock. I'm sorry, Blood Sword Supreme. You've lost. Ling Xiao let out a mocking smile. This is impossible. The Blood Sword Supreme roared. How could he believe that this was real? He had spent so much effort to deal with two of Ling Xiao's puppets, but Ling Xiao had easily dealt with one of them. He couldn't accept this. Cheating. He must have cheated. Ancient Dongxing Emperor. You're siding with him. The Blood Sword Supreme had gone crazy. He couldn't accept that Ling Xiao had easily done what he had risked his life to do. Cheating? If I wanted to cheat, I wouldn't have waited for you to come out. I would have killed you immediately. If I hear you say something like this again, I'll kill you. Don't blame me for destroying your body and soul. Although the ancient Dongxing Emperor had a good temper, he was once an overlord. His dignity was inviolable. A terrifying aura instantly enveloped the Blood Sword Supreme. The Blood Sword Supreme trembled in fear and didn't dare to say another word. In front of the ancient Dongxing Emperor, the Blood Sword Supreme was nothing. However, I have just thought about it. In order to make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly, I will give you a chance. I'll make you accept my defeat and set a new stage. The ancient Dongxing Emperor suddenly laughed and said, I'll let you fight the real Ling Xiao. However, his cultivation must be at the same level as yours. This is your last chance. If you win, you can leave this place and regain the right to use the Eastern Victory, Heavenly Sword. Are you willing? Yes, of course. How could the Blood Sword Supreme not be willing? In his mind, Ling Xiao's puppets were Ling Xiao. Since he could kill two of them, why couldn't he kill one Ling Xiao? This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Ling Xiao, are you willing? The ancient Dongxing Emperor looked at Ling Xiao and said, You can choose not to participate in this stage. It won't affect your rewards. I'm willing. Ling Xiao had wanted to kill the Blood Sword Supreme for a long time. Too bad he wasn't strong enough. If only he could experience the combat strength of a perfect 8th divine core warrior. Chapter 3779. Ling Xiao would definitely agree to the ancient Dongxing Emperor's suggestion. Not only would he be able to kill the Blood Sword Supreme, but he would also be able to experience the Blood Sword Supreme. Most importantly, he could also experience the feeling of this realm, which would lay a solid foundation for future breakthroughs. All right. Since both of you have agreed, let's begin. The ancient Dongxing Emperor waved his hand and sent both of them into the leaf space. Kid, what kind of surprise will you give me? The ancient Dongxing Emperor looked at the two of them in the leaf space. He was both nervous and excited. To him, Ling Xiao was his future hope. He could not afford to lose him. However, from another perspective, he believed that Ling Xiao would be able to pass the final test. Once he passed, he was willing to give Ling Xiao the Dongsheng demonic sword that came with the Dongxing Sky Sword. The Dongsheng demonic sword was of the same quality as the Dongxing Sky Sword. However, because it was a demonic sword, it was extremely terrifying and could corrode one's soul. It could cause one to fall into a demonic state. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor originally wanted to completely destroy this sword. However, after seeing Ling Xiao's talent, he decided to give it a try. As long as one's soul was strong enough, they would be able to suppress the demonic sword. In the leaf space, the Blood Sword Supreme looked at Ling Xiao coldly. Kid, the stupidest thing you've ever done was to agree to this suggestion. If I can kill your two puppets, killing you will be a piece of cake. At this moment, he was no longer in a sorry state like before. Nor was he depressed like before. He felt that this was the best chance that the ancient Dongxing Emperor had given him. I've killed 10 of your puppets. There's no point in talking about this. Let's do it. Let me see how strong the real Blood Sword Supreme is. Ling Xiao said calmly. All right. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. However, you don't have to be angry. Even if you're dead, you'll be my stepping stone. You should be proud to be able to become the stepping stone of the Blood Sword Supreme. You won't die in vain. The Blood Sword Supreme took out the Blood Supreme sword. It was the Dongxing Sky sword that the ancient Dongxing Emperor had mentioned. Hee, you think too highly of yourself. Ling Xiao was not intimidated by the other party's anger and fear. The more hysterical they were, the angrier they were. This showed that the other party lacked confidence. Ling Xiao never thought that he would lose to the Blood Sword Reverend. With that, he drew the East Victory Heavenly Sword. The feeling of breaking through to the 8th level of the Divine Core Realm is great. A powerful force surged within his body. He felt that every strike of his sword could change the color of heaven and earth. He didn't even need to transform. All he did was release his innate God-fiend sword soul. The East-conquering heaven sword pointed at the Blood Sword Supreme. Goodbye, old man. You should have died thousands of years ago. Suddenly, he turned into a blood-red ray of light. At that moment, the Blood Sword Lord was terrified to the extreme. He did not underestimate his opponent. They even stared at Ling Xiao, waiting for Ling Xiao to attack. However, his opponent's sword was too fast, too accurate, and too powerful. He couldn't dodge or block it. He didn't even have the chance to use the talisman before he felt a sharp pain in his throat. His entire body was numb. His consciousness was fading. No, this is impossible. Why is this happening? Why? I don't believe this. His final cry could be heard from the leaf dimension. Ling Xiao gave him an indifferent glance. Then he drew the East Victory Heavenly Sword. He didn't take the storage ring because this place belonged to the soul realm. Everything was formed by his soul energy, so it was useless to take it. He walked out of the space within the leaf. However, the ancient Dongxing Emperor was still staring at him in shock. After a long while, an excited smile emerged on his face. You're really strong. I've waited for 10,000 years. I thought I'd never be able to find the person I'm looking for. But you're a few hundred times stronger than the person I'm looking for. I'm so glad. Now, I can finally leave this world in peace. Ling Xiao didn't know what kind of person the ancient Dongxing Emperor was looking for, but he could guess that the person was intelligent, talented, and possessed some strange abilities. Those were the 3 characteristics. As for the rest, perhaps only the ancient Dongxing Emperor knew. Follow me. The ancient Dongxing Emperor opened a portal. He walked in. Ling Xiao followed him in. Everything in here is real. There are a total of over 1,000 storage rings. The best one is my Dongxing Emperor ring. Not only is it big, but it's also good for storing items. It even has the effect of a beast ring. The most amazing thing is that it can ignore the weight of 3 living things. In addition to my collection, there are also the collections of over 1,000 cultivators who entered here, including the Blood Sword Venerable. Perhaps because he was escaping, he had a lot of things. You can take all of them. Talismans, puppets, superior-grade spirit stones, and some martial arts manuals. Although you've obtained the Blood Demon Seal, the 9 Heavens of Massacre, and the immemorial martial arts technique. But you can't cultivate those 3 for the time being. What's most suitable for you now is still a 4th-grade Emperor martial arts technique. There are many such martial arts techniques in the storage ring. You can choose one to cultivate. As he spoke, the ancient Dongxing Emperor passed the Dongxing Emperor ring to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao took the Dongxing Emperor ring and replaced it with the ring he got from the bloodthirsty demon general. He thought that the ring was good enough, but he didn't expect to get an even better one. Thank you, Your Majesty. Ling Xiao said, You're welcome. You've passed my test. This is what you deserve. Let me remind you that the Dongxing Emperor ring has 2 forms. One is the ordinary form. You can't see anything special from the outside. The other is the Emperor form. My aura and the private seal of the Dongxing Emperor will appear on it. Don't take it out easily. Otherwise, you'll attract trouble. This private seal can mobilize the most terrifying secret army of the Dongxing nation. Even the current Dongxing Emperor doesn't know where that army is. Is this the heirloom seal? Ling Xiao asked in surprise. That's right. Besides being a storage ring, it's also the heirloom seal. It can be big or small. It's very convenient to carry around. The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor nodded. Hearing this, Ling Xiao really felt that there were all sorts of strange things in this world. Everyone thought that the heirloom seal of the Dongxing nation was a seal. Who knew that it was actually a ring? Without a doubt, Ling Xiao was the biggest winner of this trip to the burial ground. He didn't just get the good stuff from the Blood Sword Supreme. He also got the collections of thousands of geniuses, including the ancient Dongxing Emperor's collection. The wealth that he had now was definitely the best in the entire Dongxing nation. Disregarding everything else, just the Dongxing Emperor ring alone was extremely terrifying. Try to touch the Dongxing Emperor ring and insert your soul power. The ancient Dongxing Emperor smiled. All right. Ling Xiao nodded and did as he was told. Chapter 3780. Ling Xiao walked into the portal created by the Dongxing Emperor ring. He found out that there was a huge small world inside. He couldn't see the end of it. What was even more amazing was that there was an army of over 10,000 soldiers here. Even the most ordinary soldier in this army was at the 6th Divine Core Realm. The commander of this army looked exactly the same as the ancient Dongxing Emperor. His strength was at the 9th Divine Core Realm. Ling Xiao, listen carefully. You can command this army of 10,000 soldiers. However, because your cultivation is still relatively weak, you will be more restricted. There are 3 things you need to pay attention to. Firstly, you can only summon the soldiers once a day for 3 minutes each time. As your cultivation improves, the duration will become longer, and the number of times you can summon them will increase as well. Secondly, you can't summon more than 10 soldiers at once. Similarly, the duration will change as your cultivation improves. Thirdly, Commander Dong Xingyan will only appear when your life is in danger. You can't summon him. As your cultivation improves, the duration will change. The ancient Dong Xing Emperor's voice suddenly sounded out. Understood. Although there were many restrictions, Ling Xiao still felt that it was too overbearing. Even if he could only summon 10 soldiers at once a day, even if he could only summon 10 soldiers at once, even if he could only summon them for 3 minutes, he couldn't be any more awesome. Those were 10 perfect 6th Divine Core soldiers. Their combat strength was even stronger than Yu Hua's. Each of them was as strong as the Purple Palace King and Zi Qinya with the Blood Sovereign armor. He was going to be rich this time. With a thought, he left the small world inside the storage ring. Putting aside everything else, just the Dongxing Emperor ring alone was enough to make anyone jealous. Perhaps even the warriors from the Golden Heavenly Nation couldn't resist such a huge temptation. Oh, right, Your Majesty. What level is the immemorial martial skill that Blood Sword Reverend possesses? Ling Xiao suddenly asked. This question had been bothering him for a long time. It's at least a 9th level Emperor realm, much better than the 9th Heavenly Slaughter technique. I have no idea where Blood Sword Reverend got it from, but he can't even cultivate it himself. The ancient Dong Sheng Emperor explained. 9th level Emperor realm, and it was the least. He had previously thought that this immemorial martial skill was on the same level as the 9 Heavens of Massacre. This was too awesome. However, at this stage, he was definitely unable to cultivate. If it was a 9th grade Emperor realm martial skill, then normally only a 9th grade Divine Core Warrior would be able to cultivate it. He might be able to break through to the 8th Divine Core realm earlier, but that would only be possible if he broke through to the 8th Divine Core realm. He had to wait. It really made him anxious. All right, keep these things well. There were 2 more weapons on the other side. One was the Eastern Victory Heaven Sword, while the other was the Eastern Victory Demon Sword. It belongs to you too. The Dongxing Ancient Emperor said with a smile. Don't I already have the Heavenly Sword of Dongsheng? Ling Xiao was a little surprised. What you have is only the shell of the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword that the Blood Sword Supreme stole. The sword spirit was still there. Without a sword soul, the East Victory Heavenly Sword was merely a spiritual grade Heavenly King artifact. However, the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword that possessed a sword soul was no longer that simple. You should know that even I have yet to truly master the Heavenly Sword of Dongsheng and demonic Sword of Dongsheng. Therefore, whether you can take them away or not will depend on whether you have the ability to do so. The Dongxing ancient emperor said with a smile. Ling Xiao looked in that direction. He could feel that the Sun Divine Beast Soul was attracted by that aura. Could it be that these two swords were transformed from demonic beasts, and one of the 12 divine beasts? His guess wasn't true after all. Ling Xiao believed that once he got his hands on those two swords, he would know what they were. But he was sure that they were extremely powerful, because even though he was far away, he could still feel the terrifying aura rushing towards him. Sigh, it was these two swords that caused me to fall into someone's trap. In the end, I had no choice but to rest here forever. The Dongxing ancient emperor sighed and said, from that moment onwards, although the Dongsheng Strong Country was still the Dongxing Strong Country, the royal family no longer had the surname Dongsheng. Instead, it became Gu. But in the end, they didn't get the heirloom seal from me, so the throne is still unstable even though it has been 10,000 years. Your Majesty, do you want me to take back the throne for you? Ling Xiao suddenly asked. It's been 10,000 years, and I'm no longer in the mood for revenge. I'm just worried about the descendants of the Dongsheng royal family. I'm afraid the Gu family won't let them off so easily. The Dongsheng ancient emperor sighed and said, if you have the heart, you can help me find the descendants of the Dongsheng royal family. If they are in trouble, help them. If their lives are stable, don't do anything. Maybe it's not bad to be an ordinary person. Your Majesty, don't worry. I'll definitely help. Ling Xiao said. The Dongxing ancient emperor had given almost everything to Ling Xiao, so Ling Xiao naturally had to repay him. He was a person who knew how to repay kindness. You're a divine beast martial artist, right? The Dongxing ancient emperor suddenly asked. Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, that's right, I'm a divine beast martial artist. No wonder. The sword souls of the Dongxing Sky Sword and Dongxing Demonic Sword are related to the Divine Beast. I'm afraid you're the only one who can truly control them. The Dongsheng ancient emperor sighed and said, as far as I know, there are only a handful of divine beast martial artists in the 4 major regions. There are only about 10 of them, and the divine positions of those people are all low-level deity positions. Compared to you, they're too weak. The beast god divine position you possess feels very powerful. What level is it exactly? What? There are different levels of divine positions. This was the first time Ling Xiao heard of such a thing, and he was confused. You don't know? The Dongsheng ancient emperor was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly and said, of course, there are different levels of divine positions. Low-level deity positions, mid-level deity positions, high-level deity positions, supreme deity positions, and overgod positions. And the oldest and strongest primordial divine position. I feel that your divine position should be at least a high-level deity position. It's much stronger than the low-level and mid-level deity positions I've seen before. Hearing the Dongxing ancient emperor's words, Ling Xiao didn't react. The divine sun beast soul and the divine ox beast soul were obviously dissatisfied. High-level deity position? What they possessed was the true meaning of the primeval god position. Ling Xiao seemed to be able to sense their dissatisfaction. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He didn't know how to explain. He decided not to say anything. Let me put it this way. The sword souls of the 2 swords should be the souls of 2 high-level divine beasts. If you want to control them, you have to at least have the divine position of a high-level divine beast. Seeing that Ling Xiao didn't say anything, the Dongxing ancient emperor continued. In fact, without a high-level divine position, it's useless even if you have the 2 swords. Just like the Blood Sword Supreme, it will only make the originally outstanding weapons ordinary. In that case, even if the Blood Sword Supreme passes your test, he won't be able to get the real Dong Sheng Sky Sword and Dong Sheng Demonic Sword. Ling Xiao asked curiously. Chapter 3781. That's for sure. But if he really wins, he can get the other things I have. The Dongxing ancient emperor nodded. As for the Dongxing Sky Sword and Dongxing Demonic Sword, he doesn't have the right to take them. Even if I give them to him, it's useless. Now that you mention it, what are these two swords made of? And what are their sword souls? Ling Xiao couldn't help but ask. The Dongxing Sky Sword and Dongxing Demonic Sword were both made from the teeth of the Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat. The most powerful part of the Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat is its two teeth, which can pierce through the void. The Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat's beast soul is a high-class beast soul. The Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat is also a high-class beast god. It's not easy to get its two unique teeth. I don't know which expert refined its teeth into two swords. The Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat's soul is also fused into them. The Dongxing Sky Sword has good intent, while the Dongxing Demonic Sword has evil intent. When I obtained these two swords back then, both sword souls were sealed, so I was able to use them. Recently, as the seal is worn down, the sword souls are releasing more and more pressure. Even I can't control them. So I guess only a beast god martial artist like you can control it. Once these two sword souls are fully awakened, I really don't know how powerful they'll be. Ling Xiao was looking forward to it. I can't say for sure. I only know that no one in the four regions is a match for the Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat. Not even the paragons of the four regions. Although the Dongxing ancient emperor had been here for tens of thousands of years, people often came in. So he had a rough idea of the situation outside. Hearing this, Ling Xiao was even more excited. No one in the four regions was a match for the Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat. The Bloodfang Heaven-Splitting Rat was only a high-class beast god. The sun god was the primeval beast god. Just how terrifyingly powerful was the sun god back then? But I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for you. The Dongxing ancient emperor suddenly sighed. You should know that treasuring a treasure is a crime. With such a treasure, the experts of the Dongxing kingdom won't let you go. They'll do everything they can to take it from you, especially these two swords. If you don't say it, and I don't say it, who will know? Ling Xiao said indifferently. That may be the case, but there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Don't forget that you obtained the Blood Supreme sword in the game with the Blood Supreme. Sword Supreme. As far as I know, the current imperial family of the Dongxing Empire, the Gu family, knows about the relationship between the Blood Sovereign Sword and the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword. Back then, the Blood Sword Supreme had been hunted down because of the Blood Supreme Sword. It's not because he killed too many people, the ancient Dongsheng Emperor reminded. Hearing such a reminder, Ling Xiao couldn't help but frown. If that was the case, he really couldn't stay in the Dongsheng strong country any longer. Perhaps it would not be too late for him to find another place to hide and show himself after he had become stronger. In any case, Ziqinya now had the Blood Sovereign Armor, the Blood Devil Seal, and the 9 Heavens of Slaughter. He had become much stronger. Even the Purple Mansion King didn't dare to provoke her. He didn't have to worry too much about the siblings of the Z family. Without any worries, it didn't matter even if he had to leave. What he didn't know was that because of the inheritance of the Blood Supreme, the Purple Mansion King, the Purple Mansion Marshal, and a few other generals were all on the move. Currently, the outside world was in an uproar. If he was still alive, Yu Hua would never accept this. He would definitely create a lot of rumors to attract people's attention. Ling Xiao was just a peak second Heavenly Core Warrior, and he was just a peak second Heavenly Core Warrior. Even if he was a peak 8th Heavenly Core Warrior like the Blood Supreme, he would still be hunted down. Perhaps it was a good thing for Ziqinya and Zilong that he was gone. But this time he wouldn't disappear forever. He wasn't the Blood Supreme. He wasn't a pushover like the Blood Supreme. If he had the same cultivation as the Blood Supreme, even the Emperor of the Dongsheng Strong Country wouldn't be able to defeat him. Besides, he also had the Dongsheng heavenly sword and Dongxing devil sword, two treasured swords that even the ancient Dongxing emperor couldn't control. Also, there was the immemorial martial skill, a frightening martial skill that even the Blood Supreme couldn't cultivate. If he absorbed all of these, not to mention the Dongsheng strong country, perhaps not many people in the entire golden heavenly region could be his match. Child, you don't have to be afraid. The four regions are much more complicated and vast than you can imagine. Even if you can't stay in the Dongxing strong country, you can still go somewhere else. The ancient Dongxing emperor thought Ling Xiao was scared, so he comforted him. Aren't the four regions the golden heavenly region, eternal emperor region, savage beast region, and deep sea dragon region? The more Ling Xiao grew, the more he realized how ignorant he was. He didn't know there were so many levels of godhood. He also didn't know the actual situation of the four regions. The full name of the four regions is actually Four Regions and Nine Heavens. It consists of the four regions of the Yang world and the nine-star heavenly region of the Yin world. The ancient Dongsheng emperor explained. Nine-star heavenly region? Ling Xiao asked curiously, what's that? Simply put, it's 9 small worlds. But it's not exactly small because each 9-star heavenly region is hundreds of times bigger than the Western region. The 9-star heavenly region is definitely not weaker than the 4 regions. There are many places you can go, the ancient Dongxing emperor said. The Yin world can only be entered through a teleportation gate, right? That's right. It depends on your luck. When the time comes, you can naturally enter the 9-star heavenly region. The ancient Dongxing emperor nodded. I understand. Ling Xiao nodded. The existence of the Yin world meant that he might encounter more challenges. He couldn't be careless. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Quickly subdue the Eastern Victory Sky sword and Eastern Victory Demonic sword. My soul realm is about to collapse. Suddenly, the ancient Dongxing emperor frowned as he felt his anxiety. Okay. Ling Xiao nodded and walked towards the Eastern Victory Sky sword and Eastern Victory Demonic sword. At that moment, the two swords seemed to have transformed into two ferocious demon beasts. Its huge body released a terrifying power. Even the ancient Dongxing emperor couldn't get close. However, Ling Xiao smiled and walked forward. Facing the ferocious, blood-fong heaven-splitting rat, he released an even more terrifying aura. It transformed into the original form of the everlasting heaven-splitting rat. Its huge body flapped its wings and flew in the void. If it was just the everlasting heaven-splitting rat, it might not be as powerful as the blood-fong heaven-splitting rat. However, the everlasting heaven-splitting rat had a divine sun-beast soul, and it was a complete divine sun-beast soul, although it hadn't fully awakened. The powerful aura that belonged to the primeval beast god made the two blood-fong, heaven-splitting rats kneel on the ground and obey. Ling Xiao grabbed the two swords. It felt so good. However, he wasn't in a hurry to inject the sword soul of the Eastern Victory Sky sword into them. Once it had a sword soul, the Eastern Victory Sky sword's level would be too high, and Ling Xiao wouldn't be able to use it. Chapter 3782. Seeing how Ling Xiao easily subdued the two divine swords, the ancient emperor of Dongsheng was dumbfounded. In order to subdue these two divine swords, he had spent countless years of effort. Even then, he still failed to subdue them. The two divine swords had never been willing to be used by him. But today, Ling Xiao had easily subdued the two divine swords. He couldn't help but lament. But he was also very happy. I finally have a successor. The ancient emperor of Dongxing smiled. Finally, he smiled with satisfaction. Ling Xiao, I have one last gift for you. Come here. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng waved his hand, signaling Ling Xiao to come to his side. After that, he took out his divine pill. This is for you. It contains everything I've learned in my life, although it can't greatly increase your strength in a short period of time. But it can help you break through to the next realm. It contains all my understanding of the divine core realm and all the martial skills I've learned, including the blood devil seal and the 9 heavens of slaughter. I know you've given those 2 martial skills to someone else, but it doesn't matter. With my divine pill, you can still learn them, and it'll be easier for you. If you want to learn them, all you need to do is to think about it, and my image will appear. With this, I can accompany you for a period of time, until you break through to the 9th level divine core realm. This divine pill will become yours. Then I'll have completed my mission, and I can disappear. While saying these words, the ancient emperor of Dongsheng didn't feel sad. On the contrary, he was very calm, and he was very satisfied. There was even a satisfied smile hanging on his face. Is there no other way to save you? It was only now that Ling Xiao truly felt respect and admiration for the ancient Dongxing emperor. Although he was grateful before, his feelings weren't as strong as now. Right now, he really wanted to save the ancient emperor of Dongsheng. No. The ancient emperor of Dongsheng shook his head and said, "Even if there's no need for it. I can't be greedy, and I'm willing to accept you as my disciple before I disappear completely. I, the ancient emperor of Dongsheng, have no regrets in my life. All right, don't think too much about it. Accept my divine pill." As he spoke, he urged his true essence and injected his Naiden into Ling Xiao's body. You actually have another divine pill in your body. It was actually her. It was actually her inner core. Is this the will of heaven? The ancient Dongsheng emperor revealed an even more gratified smile, even ecstatic. I obtained this divine pill in a secret realm. It's the final reward. Ling Xiao said, "It is the divine pill that my empress possesses." The Dongsheng ancient emperor lamented. In the past, the empress brought up the rear for me and was killed in the end. For the past 10,000 years, the reason why I wanted to take in a disciple was because I wanted to entrust my disciple to search for her remains. I wish we could be buried together. However, there was no need for that now. The empress's inner core and my inner core are both in your body. From now on, we can be together every day. It seems like it wasn't a coincidence that I was able to meet the ancient emperor. Ling Xiao felt that fate in this world was really wonderful. Yes. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have set up such a test. Even my empress thinks that you are qualified. How could I not agree? The ancient emperor smiled, and the speed at which his soul realm was collapsing became even faster. Go. Your physical body is outside. Once you get out, you can return to your body. There should be the Blood Sword Supreme's inner core there. You can deal with it yourself. However, since you already have 2 divine pills, there's no point in asking for the heaven pill. I suggest you give it to someone else. Give it to someone who can help you and make her stronger. After saying that, the ancient emperor waved his hand. Ling Xiao felt dizzy. After a while, he appeared near the throne. His soul returned to his body. There was a box there. The box contained the Blood Sword Supreme's inner core. I'll listen to the ancient emperor and give it to Zi Qinya. Not only is she the person I trust the most in the Dongsheng strong country, but she is also the person who is most likely to help me unify the Dongsheng strong country. He thought for a while. He put away the Naiden. Then, he gently touched the Dongsheng emperor. He was already outside the burial ground. This was the ancient emperor's territory. The Blood Sword Supreme was just a latecomer. The ancient emperor knew better than the Blood Sword Supreme how to get out. Zi Qinya and Zi Long had been waiting outside the burial ground for 20 days. On the 10th day, Taiyuan Grandmaster had already left. After all, he still had Taiyuan Mountain to take care of. He couldn't keep waiting here. It was already good enough that he could wait for 10 days. On the 15th day, Yang Shi received a secret letter and had to leave. Something had happened in the Golden Heavenly Nation, and she had to leave as soon as possible. On the 18th day, even the Zi Mansion army that was in charge of monitoring Zi Qinya and Zi Long left one after another. During these 18 days, there was no news of Ling Xiao. Everyone thought that he was dead. On the 20th day, Even Ziqinya and Zilong felt that there was no hope. They weren't afraid of continuing to wait. However, waiting like this might become meaningless. Despair that they had never felt before arose in their hearts. Although he was very confident in Ling Xiao, this confidence gradually disappeared with the passage of time. "Sister, I'm afraid that brother Ling Xiao is all ready." As a man, Zilong's eyes were swollen from crying. In this world, Ling Xiao was the person who treated him the best and helped him the most besides his sister. He was the person who helped him the most. Ling Xiao was already dead before he could even repay his debt of gratitude. Ziqinya removed her disguise in front of her brother. She cried until the sky turned dark. She had never truly liked anyone, not even that Taoist. She only felt that he was handsome, mysterious, and had a kind of attractive charm. It wasn't love. When it came to Ling Xiao, she had really fallen for him. She didn't know before she lost him. However, when she really lost him, she felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. All of this is because of the Yu clan. I, Ziqinya, swear that if Ling Xiao is really dead, I will kill him. I will destroy the Yu clan in my life. Ziqinya had never had such a terrifying killing intent. Not only did the Yu clan assassinate her brother, but they also caused the life and death of the man she loved the most. No matter how good her temper was, she was going to turn into a demon. In fact, they all felt that they were lying to themselves. Ling Xiao's opponent was the Blood Sword Reverend. He was a terrifying existence that had been famous for thousands of years. How could Ling Xiao be his opponent? In fact, if they waited for 10 days, they would know that Ling Xiao was already dead. The reason why they continued to wait was because of a promise. Ziqinya said that if Ling Xiao didn't come back, she would wait for the rest of her life until the end of time. Until she died. "Xiaolong, you should go. Elder sister will wait here alone. Ling Xiao is the man that I love the most in my life. Although I know that I won't be able to reap any benefits from this love, my love for him will never change." Chapter 3783. Perhaps because she thought that Ling Xiao was dead, Ziqinya became more direct. She dared to say many things that she didn't dare to say in the past. Zilong looked at his sister quietly and said, "Sister, don't forget, Ling Xiao is also my only brother. If you don't leave, I won't leave either. Anyway, I can cultivate here. We've only waited for 20 days. So what if it's 20 years? I'll continue to wait." "All right then, we'll wait together." The two of them looked at each other with determined expressions. Although the conditions in the Xiling underworld were tough, it was nothing to them. If they wanted to, they could wait here until they died. "There's no need for 20 years. I can't bear to see you waste your youth here." Suddenly a voice sounded. Ziqinya and Zilong trembled violently. That voice was too familiar. It was so familiar that they had been talking about it day and night. They thought that it would never appear again, but at this moment it was echoing in their ears. They looked in the direction where the voice came from in shock. There a person was walking towards them with a smile on his face. He was unscathed from head to toe. "Sister, did I miss Brother Ling Xiao too much? I'm actually hallucinating." Zilong fiercely pinched his own face. He grimaced in pain. "It's not a hallucination." Zilong was shocked. "Nonsense. Of course it's not a hallucination. You don't think I'm dead, do you?" Ling Xiao scolded with a smile. He was still quite shocked. He couldn't feel the passage of time in his soul realm. Therefore, he had no idea how much time had passed in the outside world. Fortunately, he came out within a month. Otherwise, his body would have started to rot. It felt good to return to the real world. He reached out and gently touched his dantian. There were 3 inner cores there. One was his, and it was also the weakest one. The other 2 belonged to the ancient Dongxing Emperor and his wife. They were all powerful divine cores of the extreme core state. He could feel the aura of the ancient Dongxing Emperor being released from the inner core. It was very intimate. It was a pity that the ancient Dongxing Emperor's inner core had been lost for too long. There wasn't even a trace of soul aura left. All that was left was powerful energy. However, the ancient Dongxing Emperor did not seem to care about this. He was already very satisfied to be able to accompany his Empress's divine pill. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have died long ago. He was grateful to the two seniors in his heart. There was no sadness, only determination. In order to not let these two people die in vain, he had to make the best use of their divine pills. He could not afford to waste it. Brother Ling Xiao. When Zi Long confirmed that he was not hallucinating, he immediately pounced over. He hugged Ling Xiao tightly. If it weren't for Ling Xiao's strong physical body, he would have been sent flying. Me. I thought you were dead. How could I die so easily? I haven't lived long enough. Ling Xiao gently patted Zilong's back and comforted him with a smile. But we've waited for 20 days. If you still didn't come out, we'd really be in despair. Zilong cried so hard that his tears drenched Ling Xiao's clothes. Good brothers, thank you. Thank you for being willing to wait for me. Ling Xiao was also very touched. He did not know whether he was alive or dead, but there were people who were willing to wait for him. What could make him happier than this? Sister, Brother Ling Xiao is still alive. As if suddenly realizing something, Zilong let go of Ling Xiao and held Zi Qinya's hand and said, If you have something to say it to Brother Ling Xiao face to face. Zi Qinya's face turned red, but she quickly returned to normal. Although her eyes were still a little red and swollen, it was obvious that she had cried. She looked at Ling Xiao and said with a smile, Welcome back. There was only concern and joy in her eyes. She did not want to make things difficult for Ling Xiao, so she hid her feelings in the bottom of her heart. Thank you, Sister Qinya. I'm back. I'm back alive, Ling Xiao said excitedly. When he came out, he only heard Zilong's last sentence. He did not hear what Zi Qinya said before, so he did not know what Zi Qinya was thinking. Zilong was the only one who was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. But he also knew that things like feelings could only be solved slowly by the two parties involved. He wanted to help, but he probably could not. He might even make things worse. You don't seem to be very flexible, Zi Qinya asked. Yes, I've been away from my body for 20 days. I feel a little strange, Ling Xiao said with a wry smile. Although he was not injured, this feeling was still very uncomfortable. I knew it would be like this, so I asked someone to send you this. After you take it, you should be fine. Zi Qinya smiled and took out an elixir. This is the body-seizing elixir. Ling Xiao looked at the elixir. As an alchemist, it was impossible for him not to recognize it. The body-seizing elixir was used by a soul to remove the uncomfortable feeling after seizing another person's body. This elixir was very precious. It could even take care of a divine core warrior's body. A single elixir was worth at least 10 million upper rank soul stones. Perhaps Zi Qinya only had one elixir. Ling Xiao did not expect Zi Qinya to take it out and give it to him. Now that Ling Xiao was using it, it was suitable for him. He had never concocted this type of elixir before. With a smile on his face, he took the body-seizing elixir and swallowed it. After that, he closed his eyes. A moment later, he could feel the familiar taste returning. It was as if his soul had never left his body. It had perfectly merged with his body. I also have a gift for you, Sister Qinya. With a smile on his face, Ling Xiao took out a small box. This box contains the blood sword Reverend's inner core. Since his soul has been destroyed, it is now an ownerless item. You just need to absorb the energy within it, and your cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds. He handed the box over to Zi Qinya. Zi Qinya quickly declined. This is too precious. This is too precious. I don't dare accept it. If you refuse, it means you don't treat me as your brother. Don't worry. I have something better than this. He took out the ancient Dongsheng divine core and showed it to Zi Qinya. Once again, Zi Qinya was dumbfounded. Not only did you kill the blood sword reverend, you even killed the ancient Dongxing emperor? This was simply too unbelievable. It felt like a dream. It's not that exaggerated. The ancient Dong Xing Emperor gave me everything he had willingly. That's because I passed his test and became his successor. As for the blood sword reverend, he was killed by me. But the situation is a little special. Ling Xiao felt it was too troublesome to explain, so he decided not to do so. All in all, what I'm about to do next is the most troublesome part. I've obtained the Blood Sovereign Sword, but it's actually called the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword. The reason why the Blood Sword Reverend was hunted down by the Emperor of the Dongsheng Strong Country was because of this. Chapter 3784. The Yu clan must have spread the news of me obtaining the East Victory Sky Sword. By then, the East Victory Strong Country will not let me off. I'm afraid I have to leave for a while. Ling Xiao had already made up his mind. With his current strength, he would only be a burden to Zi Qinya if he stayed. It was better for him to leave for a while. It would not be too late to return after he became stronger. Hearing this, Zi Qinya and Zi Long also realized the seriousness of the situation. Compared to other things, the East Victory Sky sword was too eye-catching. However, they did not know that the East Victory Emperor ring in Ling Xiao's hand was what the East Victory Strong Country's royal family wanted the most. Ling Xiao did not say anything. This was better for Zi Qinya and Zi Long otherwise. If others used the method of searching their memories to interrogate them, they would definitely leak the information. This was why Ling Xiao was unwilling to tell others about his sky tyrant martial soul. Even if they were the closest to him, even if they would not betray him, they could still be controlled by others. You said you want to leave? But where exactly are you going? Don't forget that the East Victory Strong Country is huge. It has 300 countries under its rule. Just the Purple Kingdom alone has 30,000 small countries and 1 million main cities. With your strength, if you are targeted by the East Victory Strong Country's royal family, it will be too difficult for you to leave. Moreover, if you want to leave the East Victory Strong Country, you can only go through the teleportation formation in the East Victory Strong Country. The other paths are extremely dangerous. Zi Qinya said worriedly, "Why don't I just leave with you?" Sister Qinya, you must be joking. I know you are worried about me, but don't forget that you have Purple Spirit Country and so many people in the king's residence to take care of. Moreover, I am a smaller target, and it will be easier for me to hide. If I bring the two of you, it will be different. Moreover, there is no need for you to run away. The East Victory Sky Sword is in my hands. Even if the East Victory Strong Country's royal family wants to chase, they will chase after me. It has nothing to do with you. Although the Blood Devil Seal and 9 Heavens of Massacre are precious, it is not enough for the East Victory Strong Country's royal family to target. Ling Xiao said with a heavy heart. Zi Qinya was not stupid. Ling Xiao was right. The only problem was the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword. Ling Xiao's departure with the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword was equivalent to drawing the trouble away. Otherwise, staying with them would only attract the covetous eyes of experts. I'll return this blood sovereign armor to you. Wear it, and you'll become even stronger. Zi Qinya pondered for a moment before replying. She wanted Ling Xiao to escape, not send Ling Xiao to his death. Therefore, the blood supremacy armor was very important. I don't need it. Although I may not be as strong as you, don't forget. When it comes to escaping, none of you are my match. It's settled then. His tone became domineering. If they continued to discuss this matter, they were afraid that there would be no result. All right. Since you've already made your decision, I won't say anything else. But will we ever meet again? Zi Qinya asked. Of course. I'm running for my life, not going to die. Once I've mastered the treasures around me, I'll naturally return. Before I return, all of you have to be well. If you really encounter trouble, don't force it. The most important thing is to stay alive. Ling Xiao said, Brother Ling Xiao, but I can't bear to part with you. Zilong said with a long face, You're not a child anymore. You should understand that there's no such thing as an eternal banquet in this world. Sooner or later, we'll be separated. And now, It's just a temporary separation. You have to work hard in the future. Don't always make me and Sister Chinya worry. You're a man. It's time for you to shoulder the burden of protecting Sister Chinya. Ling Xiao said with a smile. I know. Zi Long wiped his tears and gritted his teeth. It was time for him to pull himself together. He couldn't always be protected by others. Ling Xiao, I think you'd better wear the blood supremacy armor. Zi Qianye still wanted to make Ling Xiao as strong as possible. This way, the chances of him getting into trouble would be lower. I said, I'll give it to you. Don't forget, without the blood supremacy armor, you're no match for the king of the Zi kingdom. Even Yu Hua might be able to defeat you, although the 9 heavens of slaughter and blood devil seal won't make the people of the Dongsheng Great Kingdom jealous. But the warriors of the Zi kingdom will definitely be jealous. If they really want to rob you, you won't be able to do anything without the blood supremacy armor. Actually, you don't have to worry. Although I don't have the blood supremacy armor, I have the ancient Dongsheng Emperor's divine pill. It's much stronger than the blood supremacy armor. Ling Xiao's attitude was firm, and his tone was domineering. Sister Chinya, stop being so wishy-washy. Listen to me, I'm not wrong. I've survived the battle with the blood supremacy armor. Why are you still worried about me? But you too, you have to live well. Oh right, the purple sun pill is suitable for divine core warriors, and its quality is much higher than the half-step divine core warriors. It can greatly reduce the time you need to break through to the next realm. What you two need now is to break through to the next realm as soon as possible and become stronger. Especially Zilong, he's an early second heavenly divine core warrior. He's too weak. With this, you can save at least a few hundred years of cultivation time. Also, I'll return these 2 blood sun world to you. Once you cultivate the blood sun scripture in them, your cultivation speed will be increased by a few times. I don't need them anymore. As for this transformational weapon, I'll turn it into an armor. Zilong, you can wear it. Although it doesn't have any effect on you, its defensive strength might not be any weaker than the blood supremacy armor. Ling Xiao had gained a lot from this trip. He gave all the things he didn't need to Zilong and Zi Qianye. He needed both of them to live well. The relationship between the 3 of them was like siblings, and that was the most important reason. Another reason was that Zi Qianye and Zilong were the key for him to invade the Ziling kingdom, and even the Zi kingdom. Zi Qianye and Zilong understood Ling Xiao's intention. Therefore, they didn't reject the gifts. If you're going to leave the Eastern Victory Kingdom, where do you plan to go? Zi Qianye suddenly asked. Since Ling Xiao had made up his mind, there was no need for her to waste any more time. She just wanted to know where Ling Xiao wanted to go. Perhaps she could find Ling Xiao in the future. My biggest goal is obviously the Eternal Palace. To tell you the truth, the love of my life is there. Because of something, she can't meet me. But I have to find her. Ling Xiao said. The Eternal Palace. Zi Qianye never expected that the woman Ling Xiao couldn't forget was in the Eternal Palace. It was the most terrifying and powerful place in the 4 major domains. I'm not trying to discourage you, but with your current strength, you'll only be courting death if you go to the Eternal Palace. But I can tell you the way. There are 2 ways to go to the Eternal Emperor domain. The first way is to go through the teleportation formation in the Golden Heavenly Nation. The other way is to go to the Eternal Desert. Chapter 3785. I don't recommend the second option. The environment of the Eternal Desert is not only harsh, but the beasts there are also as strong as the experts of the 4 regions. If you go there, you will die within 3 days. So your only way is to use the teleportation formation of the Golden Heavenly Nation. But it is also very difficult to use the teleportation formation. I'll say the same thing again. Go after you've cultivated well. Sharpening your axe won't delay the work of chopping wood. If you die, you will never see your woman again. Zi Qianye reminded. Which country is the closest to the Eternal Desert? Ling Xiao asked. The West Sea country. Zi Qinya replied. But if you want to go to the West Sea country, you have to use the teleportation formation of the Dongxing country. But you should know that you can't go to the Dongxing country easily. If he was not careful, he might be caught red-handed. And the safest way to go from the Purple Mansion country to the Dongxing country is through the teleportation formation of the Purple Mansion Royal City. I'm afraid the Purple Mansion Royal City is full of wanted posters for you. It shouldn't be that fast. After all, they all think I'm dead. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, But what you said makes sense. It seems that I have to find a place to hide and cultivate for a while. Let me ask you something. Have you heard where the Dongsheng royal family is staying? Zi Qinya frowned and said, The Dongsheng royal family? As far as I know, after the Gu family stole the throne, they killed many of the Dongsheng royal family, but some of them were still exiled. They should be in the Blood Sun country. You should have been there before. Ask the Taiyuan master, and you should know. But why are you looking for them? I have to do something for them. Ling Xiao did not forget the ancient Dongxing emperor's instructions, even though the ancient Dongxing emperor was dead. Even though the ancient emperor was dead, he was greatly indebted to him. I see. If you want to find them, this thing will be useful. Zi Qinya casually took out a map from his storage ring. The map was interesting. It was not made of paper, but a palm-sized piece of metal. This piece of metal has been set up with layers of formations. As long as you inject your soul power into it, it will release the three-dimensional map you need. It can even guide you and find exactly where you want to go. However, it only contains a map of the entire Zifu kingdom. If you leave the Zifu kingdom, it will be useless. Zi Qinya said, This is good stuff, thanks a lot. Ling Xiao didn't stand on ceremony and directly put it away. Next, whether it was to seek refuge or to find the descendants of the Dongxing ancient emperor, it would be useful. Then, let's part ways here. You too, remember this. Life is more important. If there is really no other way, there is no harm in handing over the Slaughter Nine Heavens and the Blood Devil Seal. Ling Xiao reminded him again, As long as you're alive, you'll have a chance to take revenge. You don't have to worry about us. I am the ruler of the little purple spirit kingdom, after all. I have seen as much of the world as you. How to do it, I know. You, on the other hand, must be careful. As far as I know, the place where the Dongsheng royal family was exiled is a lawless area. There are many half-demons living there. There is also the frightening 100 Demons bandit group. The 100 Demons bandit group is extremely cruel. Not only did they rob the human merchants, but they also devoured their flesh and drank their blood. Also, there is a bloodthirsty forest in the Blood Sun Kingdom, and there are many frightening, bloodthirsty demons living there. One of them is a 6th divine core warrior. If you must go through the bloodthirsty forest, remember to avoid them as much as possible. Zi Qinya was still worried about Ling Xiao. After all, the place Ling Xiao was heading to wasn't safe at all. I understand now. The 100 Demons bandit group, bloodthirsty forest. Ling Xiao nodded his head. He believed that the more dangerous the place was, the safer he would be. Because there were only a few people going there, it would be much safer. However, the bloodthirsty demon king, who was a 6th divine core warrior, was something Jiang Chen was worried about. It was an existence equivalent to a great general. It wouldn't be easy to deal with it. Ling Xiao. Just as Ling Xiao was about to leave, a voice suddenly sounded out. Ling Xiao saw a group of men walking towards him. It was the Purple Palace army who were patrolling nearby, and they happened to see Ling Xiao. Without any hesitation, they reported this to their superior. Therefore, a group of divine core warriors was attracted to this place. The strongest among them were the major generals of the Purple Palace army. There were a total of 4 major generals here. The reason why they didn't attack right away was because they were afraid of Zi Qinya. After all, Zi Qinya was wearing the blood sovereign armor. Even the king of the Purple Palace army was no match for her, let alone these major generals. Far away, in a secluded place, there were 2 men hiding as well. They were Zilan and Mengyu. Both of them had been gone for a long time. The reason they came back was to see if Ziqinya was still here. If Ziqinya decided to stay here for the rest of his life, Zilon would be happy, because there was no longer anyone who could threaten his position as the clan chief. But what they didn't expect was that they would run into Ling Xiao. Both men looked as if they had just seen a ghost. Their expressions were even more exaggerated than Ziqinya and Zilong's. "What's wrong? Is the Purple Palace Army here to welcome me?" With a smile on his face, Ling Xiao looked at the Purple Palace Army. Right now, major generals were nothing in his eyes, although there were more than 200 men in this group. Even if Ziqinya didn't attack, he could still kill all of them by himself. This was his current confidence. "You're out. Where's Martial Blood Sword Supreme?" For the Purple Palace Army, Blood Sword Supreme was a legend. Since Ling Xiao had come out, how could Blood Sword Supreme still be trapped here? They couldn't understand. "What do you think?" Ling Xiao didn't answer their question. He just looked at them with a smile on his face. This caused all the Purple Palace Army's hearts to tremble. What a joke! Blood Sword Supreme was killed. He actually died in the hands of Ling Xiao. This was impossible. They all knew that the last game was played by Blood Sword Supreme and Ling Xiao. Now that Ling Xiao was still alive, didn't that mean Blood Sword Supreme was dead? Just as they were thinking, it was as if the sky was falling. A terrifying sound came from afar. The burial ground that was originally floating above the ground began to collapse and shatter. Finally, it completely sank into the depths of the ground. There was a huge hole there. It was so deep that one couldn't see the end of it. Even if Ling Xiao didn't say anything, they knew that Blood Sword Supreme wouldn't be able to come back. Originally, everyone in the Purple Palace Army was looking forward to Blood Sword Supreme's return. Their status in the Purple Palace Army would rise greatly. They could even fight against the Dongsheng strong country. But now it had turned into a nightmare. They couldn't believe that an expert who had lived for thousands of years didn't die under the pursuit of the Dongsheng strong country's emperor. How could he die so carelessly? Who could accept this? Blood Sword Supreme is so useless. Suddenly a roar came. That old man Yu Hua had appeared. Chapter 3786. It turned out that Yu Hua had been paying attention to the changes here. He thought that as long as Ling Xiao died, the things on him would be transferred out and would belong to him. However, after waiting for 20 days, nothing was transferred out. What he saw today was that Ling Xiao came out alive. How could he bear it? He thought that Ling Xiao had the Blood Supreme Sword, 10 million upper spiritual stones, Archean martial techniques, and even the heirloom seal of the Dongsheng strong country. He felt that he could not let Ling Xiao go no matter what. "Everything on you is mine, mine." Yu Hua roared hysterically. Such an ending was too cruel for him. He could not accept it. He had a glimmer of hope. But the last glimmer of hope was suddenly shattered. This feeling was really torturous. He thought for a while, although he was no match for Ziqinya now. However, it wouldn't be a problem to hold on for a while. After that, the Z Mansion army would attack Ling Xiao with all their strength. He did not believe that he could not take down Ling Xiao. Since he could not get those things in the game, he would take them back. Z Mansion army, listen to my order. Kill Ling Xiao and take his treasures. The Blood Supreme Sword is the founder of the Z Mansion army. His treasures should belong to us. Yu Hua shouted harshly. Following his order, more than 200 Z Mansion army, led by several major generals, rushed toward Ling Xiao. Yu Hua rushed toward Ziqinya. "Yu Hua, you old dog, I have no grudge against you, but you have been plotting against me. Today is the day you die." Ziqinya jumped up and rushed toward Yu Hua. She had the intention to kill. As long as Yu Hua died, only Yu Zhen and Yu Qilong, who had returned to the Purple Mansion Royal City, would be left in the Yu family. The Yu family did not have the strength to deal with the Z family and Ziqinya. "Brother Ling Xiao, let me help you." Although Z Long seemed to be useless in front of powerful experts, he could deal with the Z Mansion army easily. However, It was not a problem for him to deal with the Zifu Mansion army. After all, he was a major general. Yes. Ling Xiao did not hold back and charged into the crowd with Zi Longling Xiao, transformed into a terrifying hydra. His huge body was like a monster in the crowd. Corpses littered the ground wherever he passed. The terrifying poison caused the warriors of the Zifu army to die one after another amidst their miserable screams. He didn't want to kill anyone, but someone wanted to kill him. He had no choice but to kill. This was the cruelty of the world of martial artists. The laws here had collapsed, and only force was the way to go. Therefore, if he wanted to survive, he had to learn the ways of survival here. In the blink of an eye, more than 200 Purple Mansion army soldiers had turned into 200 corpses. With Ling Xiao and Zi Long working together, these people were no match for them at all. As for the other side, obviously, Yu Hua had underestimated how powerful Zi Qinya was in the Blood Lord armor. He held the first Blood Sun world. A blood dragon danced behind Zi Qinya. She was as valiant as a goddess of war. At her feet was Yu Hua, who was on the verge of death. Zi Qinya was an existence that was even scarier than a perfect sixth divine core warrior. But Yu Hua was only an early sixth divine core warrior. The gap between their strengths was simply too huge. No, please spare me, I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Yu Hua knew clearly what would happen if he died. Zi Qinya furrowed her brows. Looking at Yu Hua's pitiful appearance, she felt pity for him. When Ling Xiao saw this, he shook his head helplessly. Although Zi Qinya was older than him, she hadn't experienced as many things as him. She couldn't make up her mind. Since that was the case, Ling Xiao had no choice but to make this decision for her. Facing Yu Hua, who was on the verge of death, Ling Xiao unleashed his sword energy. With the blood shadow kill, he ended Yu Hua's life. Big Sister Qinya, I know you're kind, but it depends on who you're using your kindness on. He is Yu Hua. Once this old man recovers, do you think he will let me go? Will he let you go, even if he is no match for you? Don't forget that you still have your family. He is a man who will do anything to get what he wants. Ling Xiao reminded. I'm sorry. I've made a fool of myself in front of you. Ling Xiao's words woke Zi Qinya up from her stupor. Zi Long had been assassinated many times, and it was all because of this old man Yu Hua. If not for Ling Xiao, Zi Long would have been dead long ago. Enough talking, let's leave this place. What happened here will soon spread out, and I'm afraid I will soon become a thorn in the eyes of the entire Zi kingdom. We need to leave. Ling Xiao looked at Zi Qinya and said, Remember what I said, don't be soft-hearted. Let's go. You have to come back alive, Zi Qinya exhorted. Ling Xiao nodded his head. Then he disappeared into the distance. There was no need to say anything else. He had already said what he needed to say. Xiaolong, let's go. After we go back, immerse yourself in cultivation. And don't waste the purple sun pills Ling Xiao gave you. Zi Qinya patted Zi Long, who was still looking into the distance, and said, Yes, I will. Although I may never be able to catch up with Brother Ling Xiao, I still hope to improve my strength to a higher level. In this way, I will be able to help you. Zi Long gritted his teeth and walked out of the bloody battlefield with Zi Qinya. Zi Lan and Meng Yu, who were hiding in the distance, had already disappeared. They chased after Ling Xiao. Since Ling Xiao was no longer protected by Zi Qinya, they believed they could still defeat Ling Xiao. However, what made them helpless was that Ling Xiao was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. They couldn't catch up with him, even if they wanted to. Don't worry, he said he would come back. Meng Yu comforted her husband. I'm afraid when he comes back, we will be no match for him. Damn it. Indigo was filled with worry. Ling Xiao's talent was too terrifying. From this map, the Bloody Sun Kingdom is actually at the edge of the Purple Kingdom. The Bloodthirsty Forest is between the Purple Kingdom and the Iron and Blood Kingdom. The No Man's Land seems to be more in the Iron and Blood Kingdom. Previously, Ling Xiao didn't know much about the Purple Kingdom. Therefore, he didn't know the situation. but now he finally understood. However, there was a problem now. Once he entered the Iron and Blood Kingdom, Zichenya's map would be useless. Fortunately, it was at the border of the two kingdoms, so he shouldn't get lost. After Ling Xiao left the bloody battlefield, he ran all the way in the direction of the bloodthirsty forest. However, the distance was too far. Even with his current speed, it would take him a few days to arrive. Therefore, he couldn't waste his time on the way. He originally wanted to cultivate a new martial art. However, after obtaining the ancient Dong Sheng Emperor's comprehension of martial arts, he suddenly realized that he could actually improve the Blood Shadow sword technique and the Nine Supremes sword technique. With the ancient Dong Sheng Emperor's comprehension, there was no problem in transforming the Blood Shadow sword technique into a rank for Emperor-class martial art. Chapter 3787. As for the Nine Supreme sword techniques, it was even easier. He just needed to upgrade the 10 weapons. He could do it himself. He just needed some materials. So, he started to modify the Blood Shadow sword technique. In order to be at ease, he took out a flying puppet from the Dongsheng Emperor ring. He sat inside and started to work. The flying puppet originally belonged to the Dongxing ancient emperor, so it could fly faster than him. It was safe and convenient, but it required a lot of spirit stones. However, he had enough spirit stones now, so he didn't need to worry. At the same time, something big happened in the Z Mansion Kingdom. Everyone wanted the Blood Supreme armor, the 9 Heavens of Slaughter, and the Blood Devil Seal. However, no one was Zichenya's match, including the king of the Z Mansion. Then, there was the news of Yu Hua's death and Ling Xiao's escape. It shocked the entire Z Mansion Kingdom. It was said that Ling Xiao took all the treasures except the Blood Supreme armor and ran away. Of course, Ling Xiao spread the news on purpose. He was chased by several groups of Z Mansion soldiers on his way, so he didn't kill them all. He did this for Zichenya and Zilong's safety, just as he had expected. These people were after the treasures that Ling Xiao had taken away. Ling Xiao had escaped, and Zichenya was so powerful that they didn't want to provoke him. So, they started to look for Ling Xiao. Zichenya continued to be the ruler of the Ziling Kingdom. She also used the Purple Sun Pill to cultivate with Zilong. However, the Yu family couldn't take the blow when they heard that Yu Hua was killed by Zichenya. They didn't want Zichenya to be the ruler of the Z Mansion Kingdom. So, they spread the news to the Dongxing Kingdom. At first, they only said that Ling Xiao got the heirloom seal of the Dongxing Kingdom. They didn't know that the Blood Supreme sword was the Dongsheng Heavenly Sword. When the news reached the Dongxing Kingdom, they immediately took action. In the royal palace of the Z Mansion Kingdom, there was a building that was more sturdy than the royal palace. Although it wasn't luxurious enough, it was definitely an iron bastion that no one could destroy. This was because there was a teleportation array that led from the Zifu Great Country to the Dongsheng Great Country. At this moment, there were a few people standing inside the building. One of them was the king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom. The other 4 people were the marshal of the Zifu Kingdom and the remaining 3 generals. Among the 5 generals of the Z Mansion army, Yu Hua was killed by Zichenya. The other person had died at the hands of Yang Shi, and now there were only 3 people left. The king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom was dressed in magnificent clothes and wore a crown on his head. It was obvious. The marshal of the Purple Mansion army beside him looked to be over 100 years old. His white hair and white beard couldn't hide his powerful aura. He was wearing the Purple Spirit martial armor. However, it was a pity that it was far inferior to the Blood Supreme armor of the Blood Supreme, Sword Supreme. Your Majesty, do we really have to hand over those who have attacked us? If you can obtain it, you can also become an expert of the Dongsheng Strong Country. It was not impossible for him to become the emperor of the Dongsheng Strong Country in the future. After all, the Gu family's throne was also snatched. The Purple Mansion Army's marshal looked at the flickering teleportation array. The flickering runes showed that the teleportation array was in use, and someone was coming here. Yes, we all support you, the 3 generals said in unison. The king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom shook his head and said, "It's too late to say that now. When those idiots of the Yu family sent the news to the Dong Sheng Strong Country, it meant that the opportunity had already left me. To be honest, whether it is the Imperial Treasure Seal, the 9 Heavens of Slaughter, or the Blood Supreme Sword, I want all of them. However, I know how terrifying the Dong Sheng Strong Country is. There is only one end to competing with them for the treasures, and that is death. Moreover, there is no news about Ling Xiao now. We don't even know where he went. All the treasures are with him. Even if the Dong Sheng Strong Country sent people here, what can they do? They can't do anything." The Purple Mansion Army's marshal frowned and said, "But Your Majesty, Ling Xiao and Zi Qinya seem to have a good relationship. Although we are no match for Zi Qinya, the people sent by the Dong Sheng Strong Country must be stronger than Zi Qinya. If they kidnap Zi Qinya and force Ling Xiao to hand over the treasures, what will happen? Ling Xiao won't refuse to hand them over, right?" The king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom shook his head and said, "You underestimate Zi Qinya too much. Even if she is killed, she will not let Ling Xiao know. She knows that as long as Ling Xiao is alive, he will avenge them sooner or later. As long as Ling Xiao is alive, she and Zilong will not die. On the other hand, if Ling Xiao walked right into the trap, not only would they die, but Ling Xiao would also die. Even if the Dong Sheng Strong Country wants to kidnap Zi Qinya, they will have to contact Ling Xiao first. Your Majesty, you are more considerate. It's a pity that the 9 Heavens of Slaughter is a 7th level Emperor class martial skill. If you cultivate it, your strength will be greatly improved." The Purple Mansion Army's marshal gritted his teeth and was unwilling to give up. "Forget it. Don't think too much. They will give me the 9 Heavens of Slaughter." The king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom smiled and said, "They need me to work for them. If you want a horse to run, you have to feed it. The 9 Heavens of Slaughter is strong, but the Dong Sheng Strong Country doesn't lack such a martial skill. Even if you give me a handwritten copy, that's fine too. So, for people like us, if we want to be strong, the best way is to be obedient. Listen to the Gu clan and the Dong Sheng Strong Country. I understand." The Purple Mansion Army's marshal sighed. "It's not that they don't want to compete. It's just that they are too weak. They don't have the heart. Don't worry, when the time comes, you will also get the Blood Devil Seal. It is a 6th level Emperor class martial skill. It is very suitable for you to cultivate." The king of the Purple Mansion Kingdom said with a smile, "As for that Ling Xiao, he won't be able to jump around for long. He dares to go against the Dong Sheng Strong Country. He dares to hide the treasures. He is simply courting death." His expression suddenly became cold and sinister. "But I have to admit, he even killed the Blood Sword Supreme." The Purple Mansion Army's marshal said with a frown on his face, "He must have used some shady methods. After all, the Blood Sword Supreme is only left with his soul. In short, he is weak, but he is greedy. He will die without a burial place. As for Zi Qinya, I believe Gu Fenghua won't let her go either. Zi Qinya knew Ling Xiao had a great treasure, but she still let him go. Just this alone is enough for Gu Fenghua to punish her. Although she won't die, she will definitely be punished. That's right, Gu Fenghua. That is a 7th Divine Core Warrior. I heard he is only 25 years old, a genius amongst geniuses." The Purple Mansion Army's marshal thought of the young man who was about to come out from the teleportation formation. Gu Fenghua, also known as the Heaven-Slaying Blade Devil. Not only is he stubborn, he also has a strong killing intent. The reason why he is called a devil is because he has killed too many people. Chapter 3788. When the king of Z Mansion thought of Gu Fenghua's bloody devil blade, his body couldn't help but tremble. With fear in his voice, he said, "Gu Fenghua is the son of the Eastern Victory Kingdom's emperor, Gu Qianqiu. The heaven-chopping blade in his hand is a quality heavenly king weapon. In our Z Mansion Kingdom, we only have 3 to 4 mortal rank heavenly king weapons. We don't even have a single quality Heavenly King weapon. Powerful strength combined with a powerful weapon. The name of the Heaven Chopping Blade Demon is not just for show. Even in the imperial city of the Eastern Victory Kingdom, he is one of the top warriors. Now that he is in our Z Mansion Kingdom, he is an invincible existence. Listen carefully, no matter what he says, no matter what he does. You have to listen to him obediently. Don't resist, or else, when he uses the Heaven Chopping Blade, both of us will die. Understood? The other four quickly nodded their heads. What kind of joke was this? They didn't have the courage to fight Gu Fenghua. Right at this moment, the teleportation formation shone brightly. All 5 men shut their mouths, because they knew Gu Fenghua had arrived. A bright light was shining within the building, and it was filled with a mysterious color. The king of Z Mansion quickly kneeled down. The other 4 men followed suit and kneeled down. When a figure appeared from the teleportation formation, all 5 men shouted out at the same time, "Welcome, Crown Prince!" The 5 men didn't even dare raise their heads. They just laid there, looking extremely terrified. Ling Xiao didn't know what had happened in the Z Mansion Kingdom. He also didn't know about Gu Fenghua's existence. After a few days of traveling, he had passed through the bloodthirsty forest and arrived at the territory of the Iron and Blood Kingdom. Along the way, not only had he successfully broken through the Blood Shadow Sword skill to a 4th rank Emperor Realm Martial skill, but he had also broken through to the bloodthirsty forest. He had also broken through during the battle with the 100 Demons Bandit Gang. From the Bone Burial Ground to the battle with the 100 Demons Bandit Gang, he had experienced many hardships. And with the help of the Purple Sun Pill, finally, he had crossed an important gap and broken through to the early 3rd Divine Core Realm. The 100 Demons Bandit Gang was really unlucky. They had just killed a group of traveling merchants. They were just about to spend some money. However, they had bumped into Ling Xiao's group and were all killed by Ling Xiao. Moreover, these fellows had become the key to Ling Xiao's breakthrough. After that, Ling Xiao cleaned up the nest of the 100 Demons Bandit group. Not only did he obtain a large number of spirit stones, but he also obtained materials for forging weapons. Thus, he stayed here for 2 days and forged the 10 Emperor swords into powerful divine Great Emperor weapons. It cost him more than 1 million high-grade spirit stones. It also consumed nearly 3 million high-grade spirit stones worth of materials. However, it was still worth it. After the 10 Emperor swords were upgraded to divine Great Emperor artifacts, the power of the 9 Sovereigns sword technique had also increased substantially. Now, the power of the 10 swords combined into one could reach the level of a 5th level Emperor grade martial skill. When all 9 swords were combined into one, it could reach the level of a high-level 4th Order Emperor realm. 8 swords combined into one could reach a low 4th Order Emperor realm. Coupled with the Blood Shadow sword art, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. After doing all this, he continued to advance towards the Iron and Blood country. The bloodthirsty forest was filled with killing intent. Suddenly, several figures appeared out of thin air in the dense forest. They all knelt in the same direction. In that direction, a huge tiger's head appeared. Although the tiger's head was an illusion, it was extremely terrifying and exuded a terrifying, murderous aura. Who slaughtered the 100 Demons Bandit group that I've carefully cultivated for decades? This illusion was obviously not the real body, but a soul projection. However, its powerful aura was not weak at all. One of the figures raised his head. Although he looked like a human, there was a pair of fierce, sharp teeth in his mouth. They were like the teeth of a saber-toothed tiger. Your Majesty, according to the information we've gathered, it was done by a young man who passed by. However, we haven't found out who he is and where he is. Investigate. Find out who dares to provoke our Tiger King mountain. Don't let him go. The illusion let out a tiger-like roar. Yes, Your Majesty. Then the projection disappeared. Those figures also rushed into the bloodthirsty forest and disappeared without a trace, other than the 100 Demons Bandit group Ling Xiao did not encounter any major trouble. After all, he was too strong. With his early third divine core cultivation base, without using the martial soul of tyrant, he could fight a perfect fourth divine core warrior. But this place was just one of the main cities of the Iron and Blood Kingdom. It was not even considered a small kingdom. Therefore, with his cultivation base, he could basically do whatever he wanted in this place. Unless he encountered a powerful warrior who was traveling around, no one would dare to provoke him. As for those powerful warriors who were traveling around, they would never provoke him. Half-Demon City. This was the place where the Dongsheng imperial family lived in seclusion. The name sounded good, but in fact, Half-Demon City was a lawless place. Most of the half-demons were here. They used the most primitive way to manage this place. Compared to the human society, they had to disguise themselves a little. The law of the jungle was even more obvious here. After arriving at Half-Demon City, Ling Xiao started searching for the whereabouts of the Dongsheng imperial family. According to the information he got from Grandmaster Taiyuan, the Dongsheng imperial family lived in a beautiful basin outside Half-Demon City. It was called the Drunken Moon Valley. Not only was the environment beautiful, it was also filled with abundant energy. There were also spirit stone mines and all kinds of metal mines nearby. Back then, the Dongsheng imperial family had chosen to escape here because of the place's feng shui. When he arrived at Drunken Moon Valley, Ling Xiao put away the flying puppet. He landed on the ground. In order to avoid trouble, he did not want to make a fuss about it at first. He wanted to keep a low profile, but when he arrived at Drunken Moon Valley, he found that things were completely different from what he had imagined. This was not a paradise like he had imagined. Instead, the environment was very bad. There were all kinds of beasts and monsters around Drunken Moon Valley. Not only were there a lot of beasts, but they were also not weak. Of course, with Ling Xiao's current strength, these beasts were not enough to deal with. But for the warriors in Half-Demon City, it was still very troublesome. The key was that there were too many of them. This was not logical at all. Logically speaking, a clan or a sect would try their best to drive away the demonic beasts in their territory. Even if there were some who accidentally entered, there would not be too many. But here, it was as if they were surrounded by beasts. Let's go in and have a look. After thinking for a moment, Ling Xiao transformed into his shadow warrior form. He didn't want to engage in any unnecessary battles. Along the way, the strongest demon beast he had met was a peak third heavenly core warrior, a demon beast with this level of strength. Not to mention in Half-Demon City, even in the Purple Kingdom, it would be considered extremely strong. Finally, he arrived at the Dongsheng imperial family's home that Grandmaster Taiyuan had told him about. The style of the building was exactly the same as what Grandmaster Taiyuan had told him, but the words Dongsheng Prefecture were not written on the lintel. Chapter 3789. Ling Xiao knew about the bloodthirsty sect. It was a sect made up of bloodthirsty demons. Bloodthirsty demons were half-demons. They had the intelligence of humans, but they were even crueler. Seeing a patrolling, bloodthirsty demon, Ling Xiao thought for a moment and suddenly rushed over. He captured the bloodthirsty demon and brought it to a safe place. Tell me, where did the original Dongsheng family go? Ling Xiao was too lazy to talk nonsense with the bloodthirsty demon. He directly used the soul-searching ability of his four-leaf demonic eyes. The bloodthirsty demon said in a daze, "The Dongsheng family is no longer here. They changed their surname to Sheng 1,000 years ago. 500 years ago, the Sheng family was defeated in a battle with us bloodthirsty demons and had to give up this place." It seemed that the descendants of the Dongsheng royal family did not have a good life. They must have been hunted down by the Gu family and had no choice but to change their surname. They gave up their territory because they were no match for the bloodthirsty sect. It seemed that he had made the right choice to come this time. Where did they go? Ling Xiao continued to ask. The Sheng family has moved to a valley 60 miles away from Half-Demon City, but the environment there is not very good. The bloodthirsty demon replied, "What do you mean the environment is not very good?" Ling Xiao asked. It's a barren place with a lack of resources. In addition, the Sheng family is surrounded by strong enemies. In another 10 years, this family might no longer exist. By the way, I forgot to tell you. In order to reproduce, the Sheng family established the Shengtian sect with the main family as the core. Has it reached such an extent? Fortunately, I came more than 10 years ago. Otherwise, the Sheng family might not exist. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The bloodthirsty demon fainted. When he woke up, he would naturally forget everything that had just happened. With Ling Xiao's current speed, it would take him less than half an hour to travel 60 miles. From afar, he could already see the lifeless valley, although it looked lush and the river water was clear. But the spirit qi here was extremely scarce. It was fine for ordinary people to live here, but for warriors, it was impossible for them to cultivate. The entire Shengtian sect gave people a feeling of old age. There was no vitality at all. It was as if it could be destroyed at any moment. I have heard from Master that the development of a sect depends on luck and the dragon vein. If one's luck was flourishing, one would be able to see a scene of vigorous vitality. If one's luck was weak, one could see that it was lifeless. Things like karmic luck have to be fought for. Since the Magnificent Heaven sect can't compete with others, it's only natural that they'll weaken. With a sigh, he decided to head to the Shengtian sect to take a look. After all, the ancient Dongxing Emperor had done him a great favor, and now he was even using divine pills to help him cultivate. He had also promised the Dongxing ancient emperor that he would take care of the Dongsheng royal family. Now was their chance. His original plan was that if the Dongsheng royal family was prosperous and powerful, the Dongxing royal family would be at its peak. Or rather, although he wasn't strong enough, he was living a good life. In that case, he would not disturb the peaceful lives of these people and leave. This was what the ancient Dongxing emperor thought as well. But the problem was that the Dongsheng royal family was having a hard time now. Not only did he change his surname, but he also changed his surname. He was even chased to this corner. Even surviving was difficult. It wouldn't make sense if he didn't help. Since he also wanted to train, this might be an opportunity. When he thought of this, he leaped up and instantly flew several tens of meters away, flying towards the valley. When he got close to the valley, Ling Xiao couldn't help but be stunned. There was a dragon vein sleeping at the bottom of the valley. As long as he set up a powerful formation to awaken the dragon vein, the Magnificent Heaven sect would definitely change. Seems like the ancestors have accumulated good karma. Even though they've fallen to such a state, they still have some luck. Ling Xiao smiled. He looked at the building at the bottom of the valley. The majestic sect clearly had a few hundred years of history and occupied a large area. But there weren't many people left in the sect. The entrance of the valley was the entrance of the sect. Beside it was a huge rock with the words Magnificent Heaven Sect written on it. It was quite imposing. Beside the door stood a few disciples who were guarding the mountain. They were chatting weakly. Obviously, the decline of the sect had taken a toll on their spirits. What made Ling Xiao the saddest was that some people were packing up and preparing to leave. They should be outsiders who joined the Magnificent Heaven Sect later on. They didn't have much loyalty to the Magnificent Heaven Sect, so it was understandable that they chose to leave when they saw the sect decline. They couldn't keep wasting their time here, and they weren't the first batch to leave the Magnificent Heaven Sect. It could be seen that no one stopped them from leaving. Perhaps even the higher-ups of the Magnificent Heaven Sect felt that there was no hope. Senior Brother Chin, what are you doing? Are you going to leave the sect as well? Seeing someone preparing to leave the mountain, a disciple guarding the gate showed a surprised expression. That was because Senior Brother Chen was the eldest disciple of the Magnificent Heaven Sect. His status was even higher than many of the Sheng family members. The reason why many disciples in the sect hadn't left yet was because of his example. But now he was leaving too. Senior Brother Chen sighed. That's right, I'm leaving. From now on, we won't meet again. Just treat it as if I, Chen Shuzhong, have never existed in the sect. Why? Why is this? Even if everyone leaves, you shouldn't leave. Have you forgotten who saved you when you were dying by the roadside? It was the sect leader. For the development of the magnificent heaven sect, the sect leader, who is my father, even gave up the rules that the sect had upheld for 100 years. He decided to pass the position of sect leader to you, an outsider. But how could you do this? How could you? Xinghao, stop talking. Everyone has their own ambitions. If he wants to leave, let him leave. Those who walk different paths can't make plans together. Just treat it as the Sheng family being blind. Many of the disciples guarding the gate were from the Sheng family. Their status in the sect wasn't high because the Sheng family really wanted the magnificent heaven sect to flourish. They didn't want the outsiders to feel that their status in the sect wasn't high. Get lost. Shanghao roared. To think that I've always idolized you, the best candidate to be the next sect leader. Our magnificent heaven sect doesn't need an ungrateful person like you. When the sect was prosperous, you never said that you wanted to leave. Now that the sect is weak, you want to leave. People like you can enjoy blessings together, but not face difficulties together. Staying in the sect is a disaster. Leave if you want to. Get lost. Chen Shuzhong was feeling a little guilty at first, but when he heard that, he couldn't help sneering. That's right. I'm an ungrateful person. So what? If it were up to me, all of you should leave as soon as possible. There's no future for the magnificent heaven sect. With my talent, if I were to become a disciple of someone else, my achievements would definitely be much higher than now. Didn't your father save me? He harmed me. Chen Shuzhong, get lost if you want to. Don't embarrass yourself here. Chapter 3790. Senior Brother Wang. Everyone turned to look. It was Wang Huairan, the only one qualified to compete with Chen Shuzhong for the position of the first disciple. Wang Huairan, stop making sarcastic remarks. Chen Shuzhong said disdainfully, I wasted 3 years for the Shengtian sect. I'm already benevolent enough. If I leave now, I won't let the Shengtian sect down. You're really shameless. Xingyu, a female disciple among the guarding disciples, said, You probably forgot. In the past 3 years, in order not to delay your cultivation, the sect master has spared no effort to search for cultivation resources for you. He was even injured by the bloodthirsty sect because of this. He's still bedridden. You have the nerve to say that others delayed you. Your aptitude is just S.O. What about Senior Brother Wang Huairan? He's lost a lot more than you. Do you know that the sect master of the Falling Dawn sect came personally to accept Senior Brother Wang as his disciple? But he refused for the sake of the sect. Also, his fiancée, the eldest miss of the Falling Dawn sect. She threatened him with breaking off the engagement. Although he hesitated and struggled, he still chose the sect in the end. Because he's like you, an orphan picked up by the sect master. But he knows how to repay kindness. You, on the other hand, are just a cruel and unscrupulous thing. Hearing these words, Chen Shuzhong's face turned sinister. He sneered, Good, good. Then you can continue to guard this broken sect and live your lives. I won't accompany you. Those who are willing to follow me to the Falling Dawn sect, let's go. After speaking, he turned and left. However, what made him depressed was that other than 2 of his best friends, no one else left. The others who were about to leave stopped. I'm not leaving. One of them said, If Senior Sister Shengyu didn't say it, I wouldn't know that Senior Brother Wang had sacrificed so much. He can stay. Why can't I? My aptitude isn't that good anyway. There's no difference between staying and leaving. I'm not leaving either. Stay. We swear to protect the Shengtian sect. This scene made Ling Xiao, who was hiding in the dark, feel gratified. The reason why the Shengtian sect hadn't been destroyed was probably because of these righteous people. Xinghao, Shengyu, and Wang Huairan. These 3 could be nurtured well. Although their cultivation was a little lacking, they only lacked resources. These 3 people, especially Wang Huairan's aptitude, were really not bad. Wang Huairan's aptitude was even better than Zilong's. No wonder the people from the Falling Dawn sect would take a fancy to him. As for Chen Shuzhong, his aptitude wasn't bad either. Unfortunately, he was just heartless. This was just like abandoning one's first wife. It was disgusting. Therefore, he did not stop Chen Shuzhong from leaving. If that kind of person left, it would be good for Shantian sect. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura descended outside the entrance of the Shantian sect. A terrifying aura instantly filled the entire sect. The elders who were cultivating in seclusion and the sect leader who was recuperating all looked in the same direction in horror. As for the disciples outside the mountain gate, they were already trembling in fear. Even standing was difficult. A divine core warrior? How could this be? Just a moment ago, everyone was still happy that they could keep the Shantian sect here. But at this time he fell into despair once again. Recently, the Shantian sect had been bullied by others. However, the strongest among them was only at the 9th level of the divine vein realm. There had never been a divine core warrior before. That was enough to give the Shantian sect a headache. But now, the one who had appeared was a divine core warrior. Was the Shantian sect going to be destroyed just like that? Listen up, the Shantian sect will be destroyed today. If you want to live, get the hell out of here. Ling Zhao's voice sounded out like a thunderclap in the entire valley. Everyone could hear him loud and clear. Who are you? Why are you targeting the Shantian sect? Wang Huairan was the strongest disciple outside of the Shantian sect. However, he was just a half-step divine core warrior. It was already good enough that he dared to stand out. Ling Xiao sneered. Then he pointed his finger at Wang Huairan. Wang Huairan fell to the ground. Xing, you quickly went over to check on him. You killed Senior Disciple Wang. You killed Senior Disciple Wang. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she had gone crazy. That's right, I killed him. The reason I came to the Shantian sect today is to destroy this place. If you don't want to die, get the hell out of here. If not, don't blame me for being impolite. Ling Xiao was filled with killing intent. However, he still held back a lot of his aura. He only used the aura of a first-stage divine core warrior. If he really scared all these people to death, he would have lost the purpose of this test. Die together with the sect. Shang Hao was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. Obviously, he was injured by Ling Zhao's killing intent. But he still shouted out with all his strength. Die together with the sect. With him taking the lead, the rest of the people started shouting out as well. You want to die together? Then I'll kill you first. Ling Xiao sneered. Then he thrust his palm toward Sheng Hao. Sheng Hao fell to the ground and died. But this didn't scare any of these people. Not only did they not run away, a determined look emerged in their eyes. Ling Xiao knew he had achieved the purpose of this test. He suddenly retracted his terrifying aura. Those who were able to stay in the magnificent heaven sect under such circumstances were truly loyal. All of these people were worthy of his protection. Ha 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 ha. He suddenly burst out into laughter. I didn't expect the descendants of the Dongsheng imperial family to be so strong. But you still have your backbone. Good, very good. He walked in front of Wang Huairan. Then he lightly tapped on his body. Wang Huairan immediately woke up. Sheng Hao was the same. They were just faking their deaths. If Ling Xiao really wanted to kill someone, he wouldn't do it like that. If he wanted to kill someone, he would either cut a hole in their throat, or he would just cut their throat. He wouldn't do something so unreliable. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Wang Huairan stood up and looked at Ling Xiao. Then he asked with a puzzled expression. With his intelligence, he could easily tell that Ling Xiao was just testing their loyalty. Me. I'm here to save you, Ling Xiao said with a smile on his face. You're here to save us? All these years, the magnificent heaven sect has been bullied by others, and no one dared to stand up for us. Although you're quite strong, you might not be the top in Half Demon City. You dare to help us? I don't believe you. Sheng Hao shook his head. Believe it or not, I'm already here. Take me to see your sect master, Ling Xiao said indifferently. What should we do, Senior Brother Wang? Shang Yu looked at Wang Huairan and said, with his strength, killing us is as easy as flipping his hand. There's no need to beat around the bush. Just take him to see the sect master. Wang Huairan thought about it and said, that's what I meant. It's rare for someone to be willing to help us in such a situation. Sheng Hao nodded. Follow me, sir. Sheng Hao led the way while Ling Xiao followed behind. He said with a smile, you shouldn't be so sad. You should be happy. You've been guarding the magnificent Heaven sect for so many years without leaving. Now it's finally time to part the clouds and see the sun and moon. Chapter 3791. Ling Xiao roughly understood the reason behind Xingtian sect's decline. Half-Demon City was the world of half-demons, and when a human sect came here, they were naturally surrounded by enemies. But they couldn't go anywhere else. After all, they had offended the Gu family from the Dongsheng Strong Country. With just a word from the Gu family, they would be caught no matter where they went. Only Half-Demon City, because of some special reasons, no human sects dared to set foot in it. That was the only reason they had a chance to survive. Although living like a coward, it was still better than being killed. But now, Ling Xiao had come here. He wanted to take control of Half-Demon City. He wanted Shengtian sect to be his nail in Half-Demon City. As for increasing their strength, it was actually very simple. He still had a lot of Violet Sun pills. Together with the dragon vein under the valley, it was enough for him to do all these miraculous things. As long as the people of Shengtian sect became stronger, then he would be able to expand his territory. The 4 major regions were huge, and it was unrealistic to take them all in one go. But he could take it one step at a time. Senior Brother Wang, this man doesn't look like a half-demon. Can you guess who he is? Why is he helping us? Could he be a senior from the Sheng family? Xing Yu and Wang Huairan were walking together, and they couldn't help but ask. Wang Huairan shook his head and said, I can't predict that, but I don't think he's hostile. He was just testing if we're really loyal to Shengtian sect. I'm not sure if he's a senior from the Sheng family, but he should be someone who's beneficial to Shengtian sect. According to his understanding, Ling Xiao wasn't here to attack Shengtian sect, or else, with Ling Xiao's strength, he could just destroy Shengtian sect. There was no need for him to go through so much trouble. Besides, he didn't look old, so he shouldn't be a senior. Even though martial artists could make themselves look younger, it was impossible for them to do so. But the age of their souls wouldn't change. Wang Huairan could feel that this man in front of him was full of youthful vigor. I'm afraid he's not even 20 years old. Wang Huairan suddenly said, Impossible. Xing Yu was shocked. He's so strong. But we didn't notice him when he was near them. Besides, a divine core warrior who is less than 20 years old. Even in the entire Eastern Victory superpower, this is rare. Not to mention the entire Dongsheng Strong Country. There aren't many of them in the entire 4 great regions. Wang Huairan smiled bitterly, listening to their conversation. Ling Xiao only smiled faintly. He had only unleashed the aura of a peak first divine core warrior, but it was enough to shock all these people. If he unleashed the aura of an early 3rd divine core warrior, wouldn't all of them be scared to the ground? As he walked forward, Ling Xiao sensed a tyrannical aura coming out from the house. Xingtian sect's experts should have all come out. He could sense that the strongest man in the magnificent Sky sect was only a peak first heavenly core warrior. After that, there were 3 late first divine core warriors. Behind them were 10 early first divine core warriors. There were only 14 divine core warriors, and all of them were at the first divine core realm. In a main city like this, a group of people with such strength could be considered extremely strong. But Half-Demon City was different from any other main city. There were a lot of warriors here. It was similar to the situation in Purple Spirit Kingdom. Perhaps the strongest warrior here was as strong as Yu Qilong before he broke through, a 4th divine core warrior. After calculating in his mind, Ling Xiao knew what he needed to do. With his strength, Although he couldn't defeat everyone in Half Demon City, he could still fight them. Don't forget, he was the man who had the Eastern Victory Emperor ring. If he really couldn't do it, he could just summon his Hero Soul army. With that, he would be able to crush anyone here. Sect Chief. Although this man's killing intent is frightening, he doesn't seem to be a threat to us. But he doesn't seem to be hostile toward our magnificent Sky Sect. Have you seen this man before? The man who spoke was one of the 3 supreme elders of the magnificent Sky Sect, a late first divine core warrior. As for the magnificent Sky Sect Sect Chief, he was the only peak first divine core warrior in the magnificent Sky Sect. His name was Shang Xingzong. Just from his name alone, one could tell that his older generation wanted him to revitalize the magnificent Sky Sect. But too bad his strength was too weak, and he couldn't fulfill his wish. Shang Xingzong's injuries hadn't fully healed yet. Therefore he looked weak and pale. Shaking his head, he said, "I've never seen him before, but when facing a mighty warrior like this, we should still be respectful. With the magnificent Sky Sect's current strength, unless we activate the Eastern Emperor Demon slaying formation, we won't be able to stop him." Eastern Emperor Demon slaying formation. Hearing these words, everyone's expression became a little nervous. This formation was a supreme treasure passed down from the Eastern Victory Emperor, but the problem was that it consumed a huge amount of resources. The magnificent Sky Sect couldn't afford it. This was the magnificent Sky Sect's trump card. The reason why the other sects didn't destroy the magnificent Sky Sect when they came to bully them was because of this formation. It was because of the existence of this formation. This formation had once killed a 4th level divine core warrior with a single strike. Everyone nervously stared at the man who was walking towards them from afar. The magnificent Sky Sect's upper echelons were sweating nervously. As for the disciples, their faces had turned pale. It was as if they had just thought of something terrifying, causing their bodies to tremble. Although they wouldn't be scared away by this man, they were afraid of him. But they couldn't control their fear. The killing intent Ling Xiao unleashed just now was simply too terrifying. After the time it took to finish a pot of tea, Ling Xiao had arrived at the deepest part of the magnificent Sky Sect under Shang Hao's lead, right outside of the main palace. What a handsome young man. So young, so strong. Although everyone's focus was different, without exception, they all felt a great shock. Ling Xiao was different from what they had imagined. So young, who could he be? Don't tell me it's Luo Feng from the Falling Dawn sect? All these years, the disciples of the magnificent Sky Sect had been trapped in the valley, and very few of them had been able to leave. Therefore, although they had heard about the young geniuses outside, they had never seen one before. The only person they could think of that was the number 1 genius of the Falling Dawn sect, Luo Feng. Greetings, sect leader elders. Sheng Hao, Sheng Yu, Wang Huairan, and the others all bowed before returning to the crowd. Only Ling Xiao was left standing in front of the crowd. Sect leader, senior disciple has left. Sheng Hao couldn't help but say, "Fine, everyone has their own ambitions. Our magnificent Sky Sect is indeed weak. If he wants to leave, then let him be. I'm glad that you guys are able to stay." Shang Xingzong looked at Sheng Hao, Sheng Yu, Wang Huairan, and the others. If all of them left, the magnificent Sky Sect would lose another few hundred disciples. There were only a little over 1,000 disciples left, and if they left, the sect would really be disbanded. Don't think that just because they were from the same sect, they wouldn't leave. There had been cases of disciples from the same sect running away from home before. This was also the reason why Shang Xingzong didn't dare to stop those disciples from leaving. Since they were from the same sect, they didn't have the face to stop others. Chapter 3792. Sighing, Shang Xingzong looked at Ling Xiao and cupped his hands. "May I know why you have come to my Xingtian sect today?" Ling Xiao did not answer, but looked at the Xingtian sect's lineup. To be honest, they were trash. For such a sect to still exist, it must have some special magic treasure or trump card. Otherwise, they would have been destroyed long ago. Ling Zhao's attitude made the people of Shengtian sect feel bad. The sect leader asked you a question, but you didn't answer. Wasn't this looking down on the Shengtian sect? Although you are strong, you shouldn't look down on my Shengtian sect. If you have nothing else, please leave. Our Shengtian sect does not welcome guests like you. Sheng Xingzong did not say anything, but an old grand elder behind him could not hold it in any more. You're already so old, yet you're still so angry. If I were your enemy, you would be dead by now. No, to be precise, your Shengtian sect would have been destroyed. Ling Xiao looked at the grand elder indifferently and said, Good, very good. Then let this old man see just how much ability you have. The grand elder was burning with anger. He had been bullied too many times over the years, so the anger in his stomach was too strong. After being ignited by Ling Zhao's words, he instantly exploded. Second uncle, no. Sheng Xingzong wanted to stop him, but he was seriously injured and did not have the strength to do so. The second uncle of the Sheng family was furious and attacked Ling Xiao with all his might. Ling Xiao only looked at this person with disdain. He knew very well that, if he wanted to take down the Shengtian sect, he had to convince these people. He had expected the other party to make a move. In fact, he was looking forward to it, seeing that the Grand Elder was already in front of Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao only reached out his hand and touched the Grand Elder's head. The Grand Elder's body fell to the ground as if he was hit by a terrifying mountain. You can't differentiate between friend and foe. You deserve to be beaten. With a kick, Ling Xiao sent Second Supreme Elder flying back. He controlled his strength very well, even though the Supreme Second Elder would suffer some light injuries. But it wouldn't be to the extent of serious injuries. Seeing this scene, everyone was flabbergasted. They knew that Ling Xiao was very strong, and they also knew that Ling Xiao was a first divine core warrior. But no one had expected that the late first divine core second elder would act like a toy in front of Ling Xiao. Can we talk properly now? Ling Xiao looked at the crowd and said calmly, Thank you for your mercy, your excellency. The second supreme elder cupped his hands and said, He was not a fool. He could sense Ling Xiao's terrifying strength. If Ling Xiao hadn't held back just now, he would have been dead. There's no need to thank me. I've said it before, we're not enemies. Ling Xiao waved his hand. Your Excellency, please enter the main hall for a chat. Only now did Sheng Xingzong remember how to treat a guest. Perhaps he was frightened by Ling Xiao's strength just now. There's no need for that. Let everyone listen. Ling Xiao wanted everyone in the Shengtian sect to know what he wanted to say. Although the main hall was nice, it couldn't accommodate so many people. Sheng Hao, Sheng Yu, prepare some tea for our guest. Sheng Xingzong ordered. Understood. Soon after, the tea was placed on the stone table in the courtyard. Ling Xiao didn't hesitate. He just sat down. After taking a sip of the tea, he said, You asked me who I am, and I'll tell you now. Strictly speaking, I'm half a disciple of Dongsheng Yin. The reason why I'm here is because the Dongsheng ancient emperor asked me to help the descendants of the Dongsheng imperial family. What? Hearing this, Sheng Xingzong was shocked. Perhaps others didn't know, but Dongsheng Yin's story had been passed down from their ancestors. Of course he knew. Could it be that the old ancestor is still alive? It has been 10,000 years. Sheng Xingzong looked at Ling Xiao expectantly. If Dongsheng Yin really didn't die, then their Shengtian sect could definitely rise again. Some people in the Shengtian sect had heard of the glorious history of the Shengtian sect. Perhaps someone had deliberately spread the news in order to boost everyone's confidence. After all, it could give them something to look forward to. One day, when the Dongsheng ancient emperor returned, it would be the day of the Shengtian sect's rise. Although Ling Xiao couldn't bear to disappoint them, it was impossible for him to lie. He shook his head and said, I'm sorry, the Dongsheng ancient emperor has passed away. Plop! Hearing this, Sheng Xingzong directly collapsed to the ground. despair. Originally, there was still a trace of hope in his heart, but now that hope was completely gone. The death of the Dongxing ancient emperor meant that the Dongsheng clan would never rise again. Their Xingtian sect would face the end of the world. Many people began to cry. They cried for their fate and for the collapse of their hope. Ling Xiao was about to explain. Suddenly, a powerful aura came from underground. He couldn't help but furrow his brows. Then he stood up from the stone table. Could it be that there was a terrifying monster underground in this valley? While he was thinking, he suddenly heard a loud, rumbling sound. A man suddenly jumped out from underground. He floated in the air and let out a crazy laugh. Ha ha ha! Sheng Xingzong, you should have done this earlier. Damn it, who released this demon, Sheng Buell? Sheng Xingzong's expression changed dramatically. This man had been locked up in Sheng Xingzong's dungeon. This man had once made a huge mistake by signing a contract with the heavenly devil, causing the death of thousands of Xingtian sect disciples. At that time, the Xingtian sect was still prosperous. That was why this man had been locked up. But now, once this man was released, who would be able to stop him? He was a peak third heavenly core warrior. Shang Xingzong, you piece of trash. How dare you call me a demon? No matter what, I am still your grandfather. Call me Grandpa Jiu. Xing Buell said with a loud and clear voice. You demon, you killed thousands of Shangtian sect disciples, and you still have the face to ask me to call you Grandpa? Dream on. Even if I die in battle, I won't lower my head to you. Sheng Xingzong furiously said, Great Grandpa, didn't you say that if I let you out, you would only deal with the enemy? Don't attack Daddy. A voice sounded out from the crowd. It was a 7-year-old kid. He should be a disciple from the Sheng family. He must have been deceived by Sheng Buell. That was why he let him out. Don't worry. Great-grandpa won't lie to you. Great-grandpa will kill the enemy, but this Shangtian sect belongs to great-grandpa as well. You better ask your daddy to give up his position, or else he will die as well. After saying that, Sheng Buell turned to Ling Xiao and said, You're the enemy? Good. Be the first person I'll kill after I'm released. After saying that, he suddenly charged towards Ling Xiao. A black smoke condensed in the air and turned into a black flame. It was extremely terrifying. You're indeed controlled by the heavenly devil's demonic intent. But you're lucky to have met me. Ling Xiao smiled, but he didn't attack. This made everyone from the Shangtian sect think he was scared silly. Chapter 3793. Young hero, watch out. Seeing that Ling Xiao was being attacked by Sheng Buell, everyone from the Shangtian sect cried out in alarm. Sheng Xingzong hastily shouted out. Since they knew Ling Xiao's identity and purpose, Ling Xiao was one of them. Of course, he couldn't bear to see Ling Xiao being killed by Sheng Buell. Everyone listen up. Protect young hero Ling. Sheng Xingzong shouted out loudly. That won't be necessary. Ling Xiao smiled. Facing Sheng Buell's attack, he only lifted up a finger. Everyone was shocked. Young hero Ling was too careless. He had underestimated his enemy. What he did was no different from committing suicide. But since Ling Xiao had said so, they had no choice but to believe in Ling Xiao's strength. Perhaps this young hero Ling could really defend against Sheng Buell's attack? Sheng Buell was a peak third heavenly core warrior. His speed was incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Ling Xiao. With an evil killing intent, he forcefully grabbed toward Ling Xiao's throat. Even if the other disciples from the Xingtian sect wanted to help, they couldn't. But what surprised them was Sheng Buell's speed was incredibly fast. But Ling Xiao's speed was even faster than his. When Sheng Buell's attack arrived, Ling Xiao didn't do anything. But when the claw was less than a foot away from Ling Xiao's throat, a finger suddenly stretched out. He blocked the tyrannical claw. That was the claw of a peak third heavenly core warrior. It could even crush a divine weapon with a single pinch. But the finger didn't show any signs of being broken. It just stood there, preventing Sheng Buell's claw from moving any further. It stopped the attack. Everyone was shocked. Although this wasn't the first time Ling Xiao had shocked them, they still couldn't get used to it. How could there be such a frightening existence in this world? I'm not dreaming, am I? That was an attack from a peak 3rd Divine Core Warrior, and he blocked it with just a single finger. It's not a dream. It's real. I saw it too. It's really unbelievable. Although they saw it clearly, they still couldn't believe that it was real. The scene before his eyes was truly too bizarre. In comparison, Sheng Buell appeared ferocious and terrifying. His violent aura made everyone feel extremely uncomfortable. However, Ling Xiao looked completely at ease, as if he didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure. The problem was easily solved. His strength is pretty good. He can be considered a top warrior amongst all perfect 3rd Divine Core Warriors. Unfortunately, because of the Sky Demon's chaotic mind, he was unable to break through. Perhaps this is what they call where there are gains, there are losses. The moment he came into contact with Sheng Buell, Ling Xiao knew about Sheng Buell's situation. His Tai Chi eye was not given for nothing. Sky Devil Blast. Seeing that his attack was easily blocked by Ling Xiao, Sheng Buell flew into a rage out of humiliation. He let out a ferocious roar. Then a frightening energy erupted from his body. The energy turned into a violent energy, and it formed an explosive energy on his palm. It wanted to explode Ling Xiao's finger. Oh, what an interesting martial skill. I think it's a high-rank 2nd Order Emperor Realm martial skill. You're all descendants of the Dong Sheng imperial family. Why is your martial skill so weak? You've cultivated to the peak 3rd Divine Core Realm. At least a high-rank 3rd Order Emperor Realm martial skill is worthy of you. Ling Xiao let out a faint smile. Facing the explosive energy, he casually pointed his finger forward. The frightening, explosive energy was actually reflected back. Bang! A frightening explosion sounded out in front of Sheng Buell. When Sheng Buell wanted to dodge, it was already too late. He was sent flying dozens of meters away by his own attack. When he landed on the ground, his entire body was covered in blood. You're no match for me. Just surrender. Ling Xiao stood there and said, while looking at Sheng Buell with an indifferent expression. He knew that this man might have made a mistake in the past, but it was all because he was bewitched by the Heavenly Devil. Right now, the magnificent Sky Sect was in need of people, and this man was very strong. If he could save him, it would be a good thing for the magnificent Sky Sect and Ling Xiao. That was why he didn't kill him. If not, he could kill a mere peak 3rd Order Divine Core Warrior with just a single strike. Sheng Buell was about to surrender, but suddenly a dark energy started rolling within his body. Both of his eyes had turned pitch black. This was the sign of being possessed by the Heavenly Devil. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. After being possessed by the Heavenly Devil, Sheng Buell's overall strength had skyrocketed. He was now equivalent to an early 4th Order Divine Core Warrior. The frightening energy caused many disciples of the magnificent Sky Sect to faint on the spot. Seeing this, Ling Xiao knew he had to end this fight as soon as possible. His body instantly entered the Frost Divine Dragon Beast Soul transformation state. After that, he leapt forward. He collided with Sheng Buell in midair. After that, a cold energy wrapped around Sheng Buell. Sheng Buell was completely frozen into an ice cube. At this point, Ling Xiao still hadn't finished what he wanted to do. He unleashed the bloodthirsty plague, and the plague entered Sheng Buell's body through the ice cube. But this time it wasn't absorbing blood and qi. It was absorbing the Heavenly Devil's soul. Ling Xiao planned to leave the Heavenly Devil's power to Sheng Buell. The Heavenly Devil's possession was a very powerful skill. If the Heavenly Devil lost its soul, it wouldn't have any side effects. After a long while, Jiang Qin finally retracted the bloodthirsty plague and completely destroyed the Heavenly Devil's soul. He then merged the Heavenly Devil's soul into his own soul realm. Break! The ice cube shattered. Sheng Buell immediately kneeled down on the ground. Senior, Thank you for saving my life. Xing Buell wasn't a bad person. The reason why he was bewitched by the heavenly devil was because he wanted to protect the magnificent sky sect. Although he did it, he was used by the heavenly devil, and many disciples of the magnificent sky sect were killed. And now, the heavenly devil was captured by Ling Shao. Not only had Jiang Qin saved his life, he had also saved his soul. How could he not be grateful? When everyone saw what happened, they were all dumbfounded. The arrogant and unruly Xing Buell, the Sheng Buell, who killed people like flies. And now, he was kneeling in front of this young man. This was too inconceivable. Was this young man really a peak first heavenly core warrior? They started doubting their own judgment. You don't have to thank me. I just did something insignificant. I think you should apologize to the magnificent sky sect for what you did. Ling Shao said with an indifferent tone. Sheng Buell nodded his head. Then he stood up from the ground and said, I, Sheng Buell, was bewitched by the heavenly devil and committed an unforgivable crime. Today, I was saved by a mighty man and my heart was restored. I swear, I will protect the magnificent sky sect with my life. Even if I die, I won't regret it. Grandpa Jiu, have you really recovered? This was the first time Sheng Xingzong had addressed Xing Buell as Grandpa. Actually, he knew what happened in the past. Although he was just a little kid at that time, he still remembered it clearly. If the magnificent sky sect wasn't in a life and death situation, Sheng Buell wouldn't have been bewitched by the heavenly devil. One had to know that before that, Sheng Buell had made great contributions to the sect. Even if everyone else betrayed the magnificent sky sect, he wouldn't.